Chapter 2738. Shan Tianlongzhuan continued to move forward. What he didn't know was that in the endless world of the Sun-Moon demonic mirror, many cultivators were constantly searching for the demonic mirror fragments. At the same time, terrifying battles broke out all over the endless world as they fought for the demonic mirror fragments. However, everyone knew that these were just small skirmishes. The more time passed, the stronger the remaining cultivators would be. When the time came, it would be a real fierce battle. As long as one could kill the other, they would be able to obtain more energy and break through to a higher realm. In the lush forest, a handsome young man shot out like a cheetah and kicked the back of the head of a cultivator who was advancing. Bam! The cultivator was caught off guard and was kicked in the face. He fell to the ground, dead as can be. It's the fifth prince, Galaxy of Stars. Let's run. The companions of the other two cultivators who were ambushed didn't expect that someone would suddenly attack them. By the time they realized it, their companions were already dead. When they saw the face of the person who ambushed them, they screamed and ran away immediately, not daring to have any thoughts of fighting. Galaxy of Stars was one of the seeded contestants of the High God Conference. They knew that they would definitely lose if they encountered such a person. Unfortunately, Huang Xinghe did not intend to let the two of them leave. With a leap, he flew through the air like a ghost. Two miserable shrieks were heard as the two of them were dealt with by Huang Xinghe alone. Galaxy of Stars stood on the spot, his eyes scarlet and filled with bloodlust. More than 10 green lights shot out from the corpses of the three cultivators and merged into his body. As expected of the Sun-Moon demonic mirror. These demonic mirror fragments are really useful to me. As long as I get enough demonic mirror fragments, I won't have to worry about not being able to reach the second step. Huang Xinghe laughed heartily and disappeared from where he stood. He planned to continue searching for the demonic mirror fragments. Of course, he wouldn't show any mercy to the cultivators he met along the way. He would kill them and take the demonic mirror fragments from them. Fifth younger brother is really crazy. It seemed like there were only a few disciples among the participants of the High God competition who could restrain him. Once fifth younger brother successfully breaks through to the heavenly Fate Lord realm, I don't think any of the participants can compete with him. Not long after Galaxy of Stars left, a refined man slowly walked out from the depths of the forest. He looked like he was in his 30s. If there was someone here, they would be able to Liu Yi translation. This was because he was Huang Ju, the fourth prince of the Huangji family. Huang Ju was an extremely low-profile person. Although his talent wasn't as good as Huang Xinghe's, he was still much stronger than ordinary geniuses. However, his scheming was much deeper than Huang Xinghe's. However, the crazier fifth brother is, the better it is for me. If there is a chance, fifth brother, don't blame me for not caring about our brotherhood. Huang Ju smiled as he muttered to himself. Outside the Sun-Moon demonic mirror, there was a huge square. Many cultivators were surrounding the fence, but their gazes were fixed on the barrier within the fence. Through the barrier, they discovered that the cultivators who entered the barrier were all involuntarily sitting cross-legged on the ground with their eyes closed, as if they had fallen into some kind of meditation. At the same time, some of the cultivators inside the barrier slowly opened their eyes, revealing a confused expression. However, before these cultivators could get up, a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas came crashing down. Then, these cultivators were involuntarily pushed out of the range of the fence. The faces of the hall masters of their respective halls turned ugly after they were pushed out. They knew that being pushed out of the Sun-Moon demonic mirror meant that the cultivators had been killed in the endless world of the Sun-Moon demonic mirror. They had been eliminated from the High God Conference. Among the eliminated cultivators, there were two that Zhuoan was familiar with. They were the green-clothed man and the white-clothed man that Zhuoan had killed with a single move. Who the hell is that guy? He's clearly the heavenly Tao master, so how could he use such a powerful force? The green-clothed man was still in a daze as he muttered to himself in disbelief. The white-clothed man smiled bitterly and said, "I'm not sure either. I've never heard of him in the Huangji clan. I've already investigated those powerful disciples, but he wasn't among them. It seems like I've overlooked his information." The green-clothed man and the white-clothed man exchanged glances. They could see the dispirited look in each other's eyes. At the same time, they could feel a sense of weakness in their bodies. They knew that this was the after-effect of being killed in the endless world of the sun-moon demonic mirror. They would be so weak for the next month that it would affect their cultivation. This sun-moon demonic mirror is truly mysterious. It can actually seize a strand of a cultivator's soul and create an endless world within the mirror. Moreover, it can make the cultivator feel that the endless world is the same as the real world. Even the most powerful spatial artifact can't achieve this. The enforcement elder couldn't help but exclaim in admiration as he looked at the sun-moon demonic mirror. Enforcement elder, what kind of trash did your Hall of Penal Law send this time? Even a heavenly Tao master was sent here. Is there no one else in your Hall of Penal Law? An ear-piercing voice rang out, causing the law enforcement elder to frown. The enforcement elder slowly turned his head and looked at the bearded man who was walking towards him. He said coldly, Shan Tianlong, whether our Hall of Penal Law has people or not has nothing to do with your Hall of Rules. You're meddling too much. The bearded man named Shan Tianlong curled the corners of his mouth and said indifferently, your Hall of Penal Law's Chen Fa is pretty good. However, if he meets our Hall of Rules Liu Long, I think he'll only become an insignificant stepping stone. The enforcement elder didn't want to talk to Shan Tianlong anymore, so he simply closed his eyes and rested. The Hall of Rules had always been at odds with the Hall of Penal Law, especially Shan Tianlong. In his early years, Shan Tianlong had been defeated by the enforcement elder, so he had always regarded the enforcement elder as a thorn in his side. However, Shan Tianlong later lived in the mountains and his cultivation even surpassed the enforcement elder. Moreover, the Hall of Rules he was in charge of had become one of the largest branches of the Huangji family. It was far superior to the Hall of Penal Law and had produced many talents. Shan Tianlong was very depressed because he was defeated by the enforcement elder in the past and regarded it as a disgrace. Therefore, every time Shan Tianlong met the enforcement elder, he would mock him, especially the juniors of the Hall of Penal Law that the enforcement elder was in charge of. Chapter 2739. A sudden bet. The law enforcement patriarch opened his eyes and looked coldly at Shan Tianlong. Shan Tianlong, that's enough. I don't want to talk to you about the younger generation. After all, the results of the Flourishing God Assembly haven't come out yet. How can you be so sure that the disciples of my Hall of Penal Law are inferior to your Hall of Rules? Shan Tianlong sneered. You're quite confident this time. How about this? Let's make a bet. Let's bet on the ranking of our two halls. If one of us is ranked lower, that side will lose. How about it? The law enforcement patriarch frowned and hesitated. The Hall of Rules was one of the top halls in the Huangji clan, especially Liu Long, who was less than 1,000 years old but was also at the late stage of Lord Han Yuan. Although his cultivation couldn't be compared with the galaxy of stars, his strength couldn't be underestimated. He was a well-known genius of the Huangji clan. Chen Fa could be considered the strongest disciple of the Hall of Penal Law, but he was only at the early stage of Lord Han Yuan. Compared with Liu Long, there was a big gap. The law enforcement patriarch thought of Zhuoan and then looked at the complacent Shan Tianlong. He was silent for a moment and then said coldly, okay, I'll bet with you. But what are you going to bet with me? Shan Tianlong looked at the law enforcement patriarch in surprise. Obviously, he didn't expect the law enforcement patriarch to agree so easily. 100,000 high-grade heavenly law origin crystals or items of the same value. Shan Tianlong said indifferently. At this moment, Shan Tianlong and the law enforcement patriarch, who were at loggerheads with each other, had attracted the attention of the surrounding cultivators. Most of the cultivators were well aware of the grudge between Shan Tianlong and the law enforcement patriarch. Especially after Shan Tianlong proposed the bet, the surrounding cultivators were in an uproar. They subconsciously thought that the law enforcement patriarch would definitely not agree to the bet. After all, Liu Long of the Hall of Rules was much stronger than Chen Fa of the Hall of Penal Law. Moreover, the Hall of Penal Law had 5 or 6 disciples of Lord Primordial Chaos while the Hall of Penal Law only had Chen Fa. There was a great disparity between the strength of the disciples sent by the two sides. No matter how one looked at it, this was a very unequal gambling fight. As long as the law-enforcing patriarch was not out of his mind, he would not agree. But to their surprise, the law enforcement patriarch was out of his mind and agreed to Shan Tianlong's bet. Many of the cultivators there secretly shook their heads. They felt that the enforcement elder was simply acting on impulse. Once all the disciples from the Hall of Justice were eliminated, he would likely regret it. 100,000 high-class heavenly Tao origin crystals was no small number. Even hall masters like Shan Tianlong and the enforcement elder would find it very difficult to easily take out such a terrifying number of high-class heavenly Tao origin crystals. Just when everyone thought that the law enforcement elder would hesitate, they didn't expect that the law enforcement elder would simply nod and agree. Shan Tianlong also didn't expect the law enforcement elder to agree so easily after learning of such a huge bet. However, Shan Tianlong didn't think too much about it. Instead, he laughed heartily and gave the law enforcement elder a thumbs up. Law enforcement elder, you are indeed a true man. You know that there are tigers on the mountain, yet you still insist on going there. It seems that I will be getting the 100,000 high-class heavenly Tao origin crystals for free. The law enforcement elder didn't take it seriously and said, that may not be the case. Let's wait until the results are out first. At the same time, Huangji clan's upper echelons, including Huangwu, were standing silently on the stairs at the front of the square. Although the High God Convention would be held for nearly a year, which seemed like a long time, it was only the blink of an eye for these true cultivators. Wuji, I heard that a few months before the High God Convention, you have been guiding Xinghe since you came out of seclusion. What do you think Xinghe's ranking will be in the High God Convention this time? Huang Wu's bald head was like a mirror as he smiled at the ordinary youth standing behind him. The youth's appearance was ordinary and unremarkable, but apart from Huang Wu and Huang Shan, the other upper echelons were filled with respect and didn't dare show the slightest disrespect. This ordinary youth was the Huangji clan's youngest eternal overlord. Moreover, he wasn't an ordinary eternal overlord, but a peerless genius with half a foot in the third step of Tao validation. Huang Wuji would step into the third step of Tao validation in the future and become the Huangji clan's second almighty of the third step was just around the corner. Once he successfully advanced, he would transform into a dragon and soar into the 9 heavens. His future was limitless. Huang Wu regarded Huang Wuqi with great importance. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to consult Huang Wuqi on this matter. Huang Wuji cupped his hands at Huang Wu and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, First Master, Fifth Brother's talent is peerless. He is a true moldable talent. However, his wings aren't fully developed yet. He just lacks time. First Master, if you ask me what Xinghe's ranking will be, I think that if he is second, no one would dare to be first. All the disciples participating in the High God Convention are nothing in front of Xinghe. To put it bluntly, the High God Convention is Xinghe's stage. Even Liu Long from the Hall of Rules, Zhao Nianmeng from the Hall of Clouds and Ku Tiancheng from the Tianluo Hall can't compete with him. Huang Wuji's voice was very gentle, but it contained great confidence. This was his absolute confidence in Galaxy of Stars. Huang Wu and Huang Shan both smiled. They didn't doubt Huang Wuji's words at all. It had to be said that the Huangji clan was extremely fortunate to have produced 2 great geniuses in their younger generation, Huang Wuji and Galaxy of Stars. They believed that the Huangji clan's power and influence would expand greatly in the next few thousand years. Especially if Huang Wuji could advance to the third step, the Huangji clan would be one of the best among the Dao palaces in the entire host region. There would be very few Dao palaces that could compete with them. Moreover, Xinghe should be able to successfully reach the second step this time. His cultivation base should be able to rise to at least the Master of Destiny. If his luck is good, his cultivation base will soar and reach the Master of Profound Secrets. Huang Wuqi added. Huang Wu, Huang Shan, and the other higher-ups were moved. If what Huang Wuji said was true, then Galaxy of Stars was indeed too abnormal. They didn't doubt that Galaxy of Stars could reach the second step with the help of the Sun-Moon demonic mirror and become the Heavens Will Master. However, to soar 2 realms and become the Heavens Will Master was too abnormal. If Galaxy of Stars could really soar 2 realms, then he would be worthy of being the #1 genius of the Huangji clan. Even Huang Wuji would be overshadowed. Haha. Wuji's analysis is reasonable, but plans can't keep up with changes. It's already very good that Galaxy of Stars can advance to the Heavens Will Master level. As for the Heavens Will Master, it will depend on his own fortune. We'll just wait and see, Huang Wu said modestly, but his face was full of joy. There was no trace of modesty in his expression. Chapter 2740. Sun Moon Mountain. 5 days later, Zhuowen put away the flames and his gaze fell on the incomparably huge mountain in front of him. The surface of the mountain was bare, but there were all kinds of complicated patterns on the dark surface of the mountain. Zhuowen could not understand these patterns at all. He vaguely felt that these patterns should be some kind of seal mark that even he could not understand. The clone of the Zhurong venomous insect stopped in front of this mountain. Does this mean that the venomous insect of the Sun Moon Demon Mirror is hidden in this mountain? Zhuowen murmured to himself, but his eyes were full of passion as he looked at the mountain in front of him. The venomous insect was right in front of him, as if it was at his fingertips. It also meant that his Pangu sacred body would advance to the 4-star level and complete the final transformation. However, after Zhuowen calmed down, he did not make a move. Instead, he looked at the complicated patterns on the mountain and fell into deep thought. These patterns were too complicated, and the surface of the patterns flashed with red light, giving Zhuowen an extremely dangerous feeling. He knew that it would be inappropriate for him to rashly go up. This is the Sun Moon Mountain, the origin of the Sun Moon Demon Mirror. It is the core energy source of the Sun Moon Demon Mirror. It is said that the venomous insect of the Sun Moon Demon Mirror is sealed in this origin. An indifferent voice came and attracted Zhuowen's attention. Zhuowen looked up and saw a man slowly walking out of the rock wall on the east side of the mountain. The man was about 30 years old and exuded the elegant temperament of a scholar. At this moment, he was looking at Zhuowen with a smile. You are. Zhuowen looked at the elegant man in front of him in confusion. The elegant man was stunned. Obviously, he did not expect that Zhuowen did not know him. However, he quickly returned to normal and said with a smile, "My name is Huang Ju. I am also ranked 4th among the direct descendants of the Huang Ji family. People usually call me the 4th prince." Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. After hearing Huang Ju's name, he was no longer interested in talking to him. Zhuowen knew what the princes of the Huangji aristocratic family were like. He didn't want to have too much involvement with them. Furthermore, Zhuowen had taught the second prince, Huang Yi, a lesson in front of everyone. The other princes would definitely be unhappy and would think that it was a slap to their prince's face. If he were to meet the other princes, Zhuowen had no intention of speaking nicely to them. Huang Ju also saw Zhuowen's lack of interest in him, so he smiled and said, "I've heard of you. You seem to be called Zhuowen. You're the first one who dares to hit my second brother in public in the Huangji clan. I'm very interested in you." Zhuowen shrugged and did not plan to pay attention to Huang Ju. Instead, he focused on observing the Sun Moon Mountain in front of him. He was thinking about how to release the ancestral witch Jiyu worm in the Sun Moon Mountain. As long as he could come into contact with the ancestral witch Jiyu worm, Zhuowen was confident that he could refine it for his own use with his Pangu sacred body. However, the Sun Moon Mountain was currently the biggest obstacle that prevented him from coming into contact with the ancestral witch Jiyu worm. Huang Ju saw that Zhuowen had no intention of paying attention to him. His eyes were a little gloomy, but he quickly returned to normal. "I can see that you're very interested in this Sun Moon Yarrow Mountain. However, I think that you shouldn't even dream of opening it. This Sun Moon Yarrow Mountain has been sealed by my Huangji family for generations. Even if a creator were to come, he would have to return empty-handed." Huang Ju said indifferently. Zhuowen was shocked. The creator was the first of the 3 realms of the 3rd step of Tao validation. He was considered a true almighty. Even the creator could not do anything about the seal on the Sun Moon Mountain, so it was naturally impossible for Zhuowen to break it. His Pangu sacred body was too low, let alone his original body. Although Zhuowen had a terrifying trump card like Hu Yi's Divine Arrow, in Zhuowen's opinion, Hu Yi's Divine Arrow could only kill an eternal overlord at most. When it came to a terrifying almighty at the level of the creator, Zhuowen was not confident that the Hu Yi's divine arrow would have an effect on an expert at the level of the creator. Since even the creator could not do anything about the Sun-Moon Mountain, Hu Yi's divine arrow might not be able to break it open. However, it's not impossible to open the Sun-Moon Mountain. Huang Ju observed Zhuowen's expression. When he saw that Zhuowen was frowning, he knew that the latter was very interested in the ancestral witch-Jiyu worm in the Sun-Moon Mountain. "Oh, you have a way to open the Sun-Moon Mountain?" Zhuowen looked at Huang Ju and asked. Huang Ju looked at Zhuowen strangely and said, "You are from the Hall of Penal Law, right? Didn't your law enforcement elder tell you the process and details of the Flourishing God Convention?" Zhuowen shook his head and did not explain. In fact, the law enforcement elder had given him a jade slip that recorded the rules and details of the Flourishing God Convention. Because Zhuowen was busy with his seclusion, he had given the jade slip to Chen Fa. After he came out of seclusion, he had forgotten about it. Therefore, even though the Flourishing God Convention had begun, Zhuowen still did not know much about it. Huang Ju didn't mind it too much and continued, "Actually, I'm sure you know the rules of the Delicate God Convention. The purpose of this convention is to collect the fragments of the Sun-Moon demonic mirror and use them to improve your cultivation base. You will also have to fight with other cultivators over the fragments. Moreover, the more fragments you collect, the stronger you will be. The Sun-Moon demonic mirror will also rank the cultivators who have collected the most fragments. It's said that when the battle royal of the High God Assembly reaches the end and there is only one person left, he will force all the fragments out of his body and put them on the peak of this mountain. The seal will be released for a quarter of an hour, and the ancestral shaman parasite sealed inside will appear. The ancestral witch-Jiyu worm that appears will emit an extremely pure energy that can be directly imbued into the cultivator and help him to improve his cultivation. Of course, the imbuement of the ancestral witch-Jiyu worm can only last for a quarter of an hour. If it exceeds that time, the ancestral witch-Jiyu worm will go out of control. At that time, if you are not careful, you may lose your life." When he spoke up to hear, Huang Ju glanced at Zhuowen with interest and continued, "Brother Zhuo, from the looks of it, you seem to have come for the ancestral shaman parasite's blessing, right? The imbuement of the ancestral witch-Jiyu worm is indeed a good thing. However, you must have the corresponding strength. I'm afraid you will not be able to do it." At this point, Huang Ju shook his head. Obviously, he felt that Zhuowen's cultivation was too low. The possibility of him surviving until the end in this endless world was too small. However, he did not underestimate Zhuowen. This person was only a heavenly Dao master, but he was able to defeat Huang Yi, a Dao Yuan master. His strength was somewhat terrifying and he was not a simple person. In Huang Ju's estimation, Zhuowen's strength was between the peak of Dao Yuan master and the early stage of Hun Yuan master. In his opinion, Zhuowen was a companion worth roping in. After all, in his opinion, Zhuowen's development potential was better than the other Dao Yuan masters and Hun Yuan masters. A mere heavenly Dao master could easily defeat a Dao Yuan master. If this guy was promoted to Dao Yuan master, he would not be weaker than a late-stage Hun Yuan master, or even a peak Hun Yuan master. Chapter 2741. An invitation from Huang Ju. Zhuowen suddenly realized that if he wanted to get in touch with the ancestral sorcerer's venomous insect, he would have to win first place in the High God Assembly. Zhuowen didn't care about the ranking of the High God Assembly. In his opinion, the participants of the High God Assembly were all from the younger generation. Even the galaxy of stars, who had extraordinary talents, was nothing in Zhuowen's eyes. This was because he knew that it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill the galaxy of stars. After all, his Pangu sacred body had already reached the peak of the 3-star level. He could easily defeat any ordinary master of destiny. "Thank you very much." Zhuowen cupped his hands toward Huang Ju. He didn't want to have any more contact with Huang Ju and was about to leave. However, Huang Ju obviously didn't want to let Zhuowen leave just like that. He blocked Zhuowen's path. Zhuowen frowned and looked at Huang Ju, who was blocking his path, and said coldly, "Brother Huang Ju, what is the meaning of this?" Huang Ju smiled and didn't mind Zhuowen's rude tone. He said with a faint smile, "Brother Zhuo, you don't have to be so wary of me. To be honest, We don't have any conflicts of interest. We can cooperate. Zhuowen sneered and said sarcastically, Huang Yi is your second brother. I crippled his right hand in front of everyone. Don't you have any grudges? Huang Ju smiled disdainfully and said, Huang Yi is only my second brother in name. He's actually just a good-for-nothing with poor talent. Most of his cultivation was boosted by divine herbs. It's basically impossible for him to advance to a higher realm in the future. In terms of status, he is far inferior to me. Moreover, among the 5 of us, other than the eldest heir, Huang Wuqi, who is the first master's son, the other 4 are only the first master's adopted sons and are not related by blood. Huang Yi's talent isn't good enough. Sooner or later, he will step down from his position as heir. I don't even care about this kind of trash, and I won't offend a genius like you for this kind of trash. When Huang Ju said that Huang Yi was trash, her voice was full of righteousness, without the slightest bit of guilt. Of course, Zhuowen was not worried about this. Regardless of whether the relationship between Huang Ju and Huang Ju was really good, he did not intend to cooperate with Huang Ju. He could see that Huang Ju was very scheming. If he cooperated with such a person, it would be easy to fall into his hands. Of course, with Zhuowen's strength, no matter how scheming Huang Ju was, it wouldn't affect Zhuowen much. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes and tricks were just paper tigers. Brother Huang Ju, I'm used to being alone. I'm not used to working with others, so I'll take my leave now. See you later. Zhuowen was too lazy to waste his breath on Huang Ju, so he cupped his fists and disappeared like a gust of wind. Huang Ju was stunned on the spot, and his face suddenly turned green and white. In the end, he calmed down, but deep in his eyes, there was a strong killing intent. Ungrateful bastard, if I see you again, I'll make you regret your rude behavior this time. Huang Ju's eyes were cold, and he didn't deliberately chase after Zhuowen. The High God Conference would last for a whole year, and it had just begun. Most of the cultivators would not choose to fight to the death. Instead, they would tacitly agree to collect the demonic mirror fragments to increase their cultivation. In the middle and later stages of the High God Conference, the conflicts between the cultivators would become more and more intense due to the lack of demonic mirror fragments. At that time, the battles between the cultivators would become extremely fierce. At that time, the real battle royal would begin. Every cultivator would want to kill the others and obtain the energy of the demonic mirror fragments from them to become stronger. But now, the process of collecting the demonic mirror fragments was relatively peaceful. After all, people like the Galaxy of Stars, who killed without caring about the occasion and didn't care about the unspoken rules, were in the minority. Zhuowen kept moving forward. This time, he used the power of the Pangu banner to spread his divine sense to a distance of 10,000 feet. He went deep into the ground and soon found more than 10 demonic mirror fragments under his feet. If other cultivators knew that Zhuowen's divine sense could extend to a distance of 10,000 feet, they would definitely vomit blood and cry out that it was unfair. Due to a strange force in the infinite world that could block divine sense, most cultivators could only extend their divine sense to a distance of a dozen meters. Some were even worse and could only extend their divine sense to a distance of a few meters. It was already very impressive to be able to extend their divine sense to a distance of 10 meters. Perhaps no one in the infinite world could extend their divine sense to a distance of 10,000 feet like Zhuowen. Most of the demonic mirror fragments were buried 10 meters below the ground or even 100 meters deep. Most cultivators' divine sense couldn't reach that deep. Therefore, many cultivators first guessed a place and then began to dig a hole. As they continued to dig, their divine sense could get closer to the demonic mirror fragments underground. Cultivators who were lucky would be able to find some demonic mirror fragments in one go. As for those who were unlucky, they might not be able to find a single demonic mirror fragment even after a few days of hard work. However, Zhuowen didn't need to do that. His divine sense had a range of 10,000 feet. Basically, wherever he flew past, he could clearly detect whether there were any demonic mirror fragments in the depths of the ground. He didn't need to waste time digging to confirm. Soon, Zhuowen found another piece of ground. After digging a few hundred meters into the ground, he found more than 70 demon mirror fragments. The energy of the demonic mirror fragments was very easy to absorb. Zhuowen didn't even need to refine them. He only needed to hold the fragments, and he could continuously transfer the energy from the fragments into his body and convert it into energy in his body. On average, Zhuowen only needed 3 breaths of time to absorb each fragment. Zhuowen's speed of finding the demonic mirror fragments was really fast. On average, he could find hundreds to thousands of fragments in a day. He absorbed all the energy in these fragments. Zhuowen's cultivation level was also steadily increasing. However, Zhuowen felt helpless because his physique was too special. In the past half a month, he had collected nearly 10,000 demonic mirror fragments and absorbed all of them. He could clearly feel that his cultivation level had indeed increased. However, he realized that he was still a long way from breaking through to the Daoyuan Master Realm. If it were other cultivators, they would have broken through to the Daoyuan Master Realm or even reached the peak of the Daoyuan Master Realm after absorbing so much energy from the demonic mirror fragments. However, Zhuowen still hadn't reached the threshold of the Daoyuan Master Realm. I'm really a bottomless pit. The amount of resources I need to advance to the Daoyuan Master Realm is 1,000 times more than other cultivators, Zhuowen muttered to himself in a self-deprecating manner. Hey! Just as Zhuowen was lamenting about his strange physique, he suddenly stopped and landed on the ground. The world Zhuowen was in was filled with endless rocks. Apart from rocks, there was nothing else in this world. It was a real world of rocks. Just now, he had casually scanned the ground beneath his feet and realized that this underground world was unusual. Chapter 2742. A huge discovery. The ground under his feet was very deep. Zhuowen spent quite some time and only found sporadic demon mirror fragments. However, Zhuowen knew that this underground was not simple. It was purely a feeling. Moreover, his divine sense had not reached its limit, so Zhuowen continued to push his divine sense deeper. Finally, at a depth of nearly 10,000 feet below his feet, which was the limit of Zhuowen's divine sense, he saw a scene that shocked him. In his divine sense, there were piles of demon mirror fragments at a depth of 10,000 feet below the ground. Just on the surface that Zhuowen scanned, there were close to 10,000 demon mirror fragments. There were even more demon mirror fragments in places that his divine sense could not reach. If it was not for the fact that Zhuowen's divine sense was not long enough, he believed that he could scan more demon mirror fragments. There was no doubt that there was a huge reserve of demon mirror fragments at a depth of 10,000 feet below his feet. He estimated that there were at least 50,000 demon mirror fragments or even more. If he could obtain so many demon mirror fragments, Zhuowen knew that his original body might be able to advance to Daoyuan Master. I have to dig out all of these demon mirror fragments. Zhuowen's eyes were burning with passion as he began to dig the ground. As this was a world of rocks, even the ground was covered with rocks. Moreover, these rocks were not ordinary rocks. Even if Zhuowen used the heavenly Tao's divine power to condense a shovel, he had to use all his strength to dig a few feet into the ground under his feet. With Zhuowen's current digging speed, it would take at least 3 months or even longer to dig to a depth of 10,000 feet below the ground. It was precisely because this world of rocks was different from the ground of other worlds that there were very few cultivators who searched for and dug out demon mirror fragments in this world. Even if there were cultivators who passed by, they would take a detour and leave when they realized that the ground of this world of rocks was so difficult to dig out. In particular, when some cultivators saw that Zhuowen was digging alone there seriously, they would basically secretly laugh at him and leave as a joke. Zhuowen paid no attention to the cultivators who passed by and mocked him. Time flew by and 2 months went by in the blink of an eye. Zhuowen had already dug a distance of over 900 zhong. As for the cultivators in the infinite worlds, most of them had more or less gained something. Some lucky cultivators had obtained a considerable amount of demon mirror fragments. After absorbing their energy, their cultivation had improved greatly and made a breakthrough. Among them, the most famous was the Galaxy of Stars. It was said that the Galaxy of Stars had already become a half-step Destiny Master and was extremely close to becoming a Destiny Master. Of course, from the moment the Galaxy of Stars entered this infinite world, they started a massacre. The galaxy of stars did not spare any of the cultivators they encountered along the way and killed them all. Therefore, most of the eliminated cultivators in the square outside the sun-moon demonic mirror were basically thanks to the galaxy of stars. It was also because of this that the galaxy of stars was infamous in the infinite worlds. Most cultivators were unwilling to encounter the galaxy of stars. Even if some cultivators accidentally encountered the galaxy of stars, the first thing they did was immediately run for their lives. Before the galaxy of stars could get close, those cultivators had already fled without a trace. In addition to the galaxy of stars, Zhao Nianmeng of the Yunyang Hall, Ku Tianlong of the Tianluo Hall, and Liu Long of the Law Hall had also performed very fiercely. It was said that these three people had also gained a lot and had all become half-step destiny masters. However, although these three people's cultivation levels were the same as the galaxy of stars, none of them dared to take the initiative to provoke the galaxy of stars. The galaxy of stars was a true genius. When he was at the peak of primordial chaos master, he had once defeated a destiny master. Now that he had become a half-step destiny master, his strength must be even more terrifying. The combat strength of the galaxy of stars could not be measured by cultivation levels. Zhao Nianmeng, Ku Tianlong, and Liu Long were considered geniuses. However, even if they had become half-step destiny masters, they would only have a 50% chance of defeating an ordinary destiny master. They simply could not reach the level of the galaxy of stars. Therefore, even if their cultivation levels were the same as the galaxy of stars, none of them were willing to face the galaxy of stars. Huang Ju's talent was also terrifying, but this guy was too low-key. Basically, he rarely heard any sensational news. However, he still could not be underestimated. Second Prince, isn't that the Zhuoan you've been talking about? This guy is actually digging in this rock world. Is this guy an idiot? A group of people swept over from the rock world. Among them, a young woman in a red dress saw the figure of Zhuoan who was digging up the demonic mirror fragments and recognized Zhuoan. In front of this group of people was the extremely handsome Huang Yi. At this moment, Huang Yi followed the woman's finger and saw Zhuoan's back. His eyes revealed a trace of coldness and malevolence. I've traveled far and wide to no avail. I was just about to look for that bastard. I didn't expect to meet this bastard like this. Huang Yi sneered. There must be something wrong with this guy's head. The ground of this rocky world is the hardest in the infinite worlds. Even a peak cultivator like Lord Primordial would have a hard time digging it out. Yet, this guy is still digging, and digging so deep. The woman in the red dress looked at Zhuoan who was still digging in the distance as if she was looking at an idiot. She knew very well how hard the ground of this rock world was. If she were to dig, it would take her 4 to 5 months to dig a 10,000 feet deep hole. Thinking that this guy spent so much time digging such a big hole, not only did the woman in the red dress find it unbelievable, but Huang Yi and the others also found it funny. There's indeed something wrong with this bastard's brain. Let's see just how much of an idiot this bastard is. Huang Yi was not in a hurry to find trouble with Zhuoan. Instead, he stopped not far away and looked down at Zhuoan with his arms crossed in front of his chest. Zhuoan had already seen Huang Yi and the group of people. He sneered in his heart but did not pay attention to this group of clowns. Huang Yi brought a group of 8 people. The strongest among them should be an early-stage Hunyuan master while the rest were peak Daoyuan masters. Such a lineup could be said to be magnificent and powerful. Ordinary cultivators would not dare to provoke them. However, in Zhuoan's eyes, they were simply clowns. Zhuoan did not bother to pay attention to these people. His heart was burning because he was about to dig 10,000 feet into the ground. Ding! Suddenly, there was a crisp sound. Then, Zhuoan wiped off the loose soil under his feet and a surge of energy rushed towards him. Zhuoan was too familiar with this energy. It was the energy aura of the demon mirror fragments. Zhuoan waved his sleeve and began to collect the demon mirror fragments crazily. Those are demon mirror fragments. How can there be so many demon mirror fragments? Chapter 2743. Snatch by 4 Second Prince. There are so many demonic mirror fragments 1,000 jong underground. I estimate that there are at least tens of thousands of them. With so many demonic mirror fragments, we can all cultivate to the peak of Hunyuan Master if we divide them evenly. The woman in red was the first to come back to her senses. Her beautiful eyes were filled with passion and greed as she quickly said to Huang Yi. She was still sober and knew that the person in charge was Huang Yi. Naturally, she could not be the first to take action. She should wait for Huang Yi's order. Not only the woman in red, but the rest of the people around Huang Yi were also looking at Huang Yi. Clearly, they could not wait any longer. Haha, this bastard is really lucky. After digging for a few months like an idiot, he really dug out a treasure. Let's go. Don't attack first. Let's collect the demonic mirror fragments first. Huang Yi was wise. He did not plan to deal with Zhuowen directly. Instead, he arranged for the others to collect the demonic mirror fragments first. The number of demonic mirror fragments that Zhuowen had dug out was too shocking. Even if all of them worked together, it would still take them half a day. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As soon as Huang Yi finished speaking, the others rushed out like a gust of wind and frantically collected the demonic mirror fragments in the huge pit. Huang Yi also joined the team in a frenzy. Zhuowen only glanced at Huang Yi's group and ignored them. Instead, he focused on collecting the fragments. The number of demonic mirror fragments that he had dug out was too shocking. He estimated that there were more than 100,000 of them. He just wanted to collect them as soon as possible. After all, the energy that erupted from so many demonic mirror fragments was very terrifying. It would definitely attract the attention of many cultivators in the surrounding worlds. If too many cultivators came, he would not be able to stop them all by himself. Since Huang Yi and the others were in the same group, Zhuowen did not feel bad about letting them collect a part of the demonic mirror fragments. He knew that after he was done collecting, he would find Huang Yi and the others to settle the score. They would not be able to escape. The group had a tacit understanding. They did not interfere with each other and collected the fragments quickly. Of course, Zhuowen was the fastest. Zhuowen's doppelganger was Devour. With Devour's innate devouring power, Huang Yi and the others could not collect the fragments in time. 4 hours later, the demonic mirror fragments in the huge pit were all collected into Zhuowen's great world. Zhuowen made a rough estimation and discovered that he had obtained a total of over 80,000 demon mirror fragments this time. Huang Yi and the rest should have collected close to 20,000 demon mirror fragments in total. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, black shadows to the Great Yang's world. Clearly, some of the cultivators near the rock world were attracted by the demon mirror fragments in the giant pit. Huang, 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 Huang are Huang studio of to studio to studio our studio of the way studio of is our studio is our studio is. By Huang Yi walked forward and looked at Zhuowen coldly. Hand over all the demonic mirror fragments you have. Then, kneel on the ground and apologize to me. If you do that, I can consider sparing your worthless life and making you my lackey. You can try if you want me to apologize. If you can defeat me, I will apologize to you and be your lackey, Zhuowen said calmly. Huang Yi's eyes flickered. He did not attack but took a few steps back. He had exchanged blows with Zhuowen in the square before, and his right hand had been crippled by this fellow. He knew that if he attacked, he would be no match for this guy. He might even end up worse than before. Humph! How dare you be so arrogant when you are just the master of the heavenly law? I will teach you a lesson on behalf of the second prince. A man who was as thin as a bamboo pole behind Huang Yi sneered. He glanced at Zhuowen with disdain before shooting out like a cannonball towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen looked at him strangely. It seemed like this man had not heard of the feud between him and Huang Yi. After all, this man's cultivation was only at the peak of the Daoyuan master realm. Although he was stronger than Huang Yi, there was a limit to his strength. If this skinny man knew about the fight between Zhuowen and Huang Yi, he would not have rushed forward alone. Zhuowen simply did not care about such a clown. His right fist shot out and smashed into the man's arm. Immediately, the man miserably shrieked as a cluster of bloody mist erupted from his arm. He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards. Zhuowen took a step forward. As the man flew backward, He punched out again and hit the man's chest. A powerful force exploded and the man's chest caved in. Then, the man arched his body and a cloud of blood exploded from his back. In the end, the man screamed in pain and exploded into pieces. He was dead. Except for Huang Yi, everyone else was stunned. Obviously, they did not expect a mere heavenly Dao master to be so powerful that he could kill the skinny man at the peak of the Daoyuan master realm with a single punch. Huang Yi had wanted them to join forces because he knew Zhuowen's strength was not simple. However, the skinny man was too impatient. He attacked before Huang Yi could say anything. By the time Huang Yi wanted to remind them, Zhuowen had already killed the skinny man. Everyone, be careful. This man is not simple. Let's kill him together and take the demon mirror fragment from him, Huang Yi quickly reminded them. Even without Huang Yi's reminder, the others had already joined forces and flew toward Zhuowen after seeing the skinny man's tragic end. At the same time, before they arrived, various powerful attacks had already landed on Zhuowen's body. These were all experts at the peak of the Daoyuan Master Realm. There was even an expert at the early stage of the Hunyuan Master Realm. Their combined attack was extremely terrifying. Even the experts at the intermediate and advanced stage of the Hunyuan Master Realm did not dare to take such a terrifying attack head-on. Although Zhuowen was extraordinary, in their opinion, he was just a heavenly Dao master. Under such a joint attack, he would definitely die. Bang! 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 Suddenly, there was a crisp sound from the huge light ball in front of them. Immediately, the huge energy light ball was destroyed in an instant. A figure walked out slowly like a god or a demon. The attack of more than 10 of you is so weak. It's too trashy. Zhuowen, who was like a god or a demon, walked out slowly and looked down at Huang Yi and the others who were already in a daze. Zhuowen didn't speak any further. He took a step forward and shot out like an arrow that had left the bow, and he pierced through this group of people with extreme speed. The first person he came to was the lady in the red dress who had mocked him earlier. He threw out a punch that looked ordinary. However, the lady in the red dress retreated quickly as if she was avoiding the god of plague. Unfortunately, she was locked in place by Zhuowen's killing intent and it was useless for her to retreat. When she had nowhere else to retreat to, she gritted her teeth and took out a red brocade. It transformed into a red snake and suddenly shot out to meet Zhuowen. However, it was a pity that Zhuowen merely grabbed it and gently twisted it. The red brocade was casually torn apart by Zhuowen. The lady in the red dress screamed as she felt the fear of death. Chapter 2744 The Spreading News Boom. After Zhuowen tore apart the red brocade, he punched the woman in the red dress in between her eyebrows. Her screams came to an abrupt end. Zhuowen muttered to himself as he flew towards another cultivator beside him. This cultivator also took out his natal divine artifact. Unfortunately, they were just paper tigers under the power of the Pangu sacred body. His natal divine weapon was shattered with one punch. The remaining force of the punch did not diminish and landed on the cultivator's chest. Immediately, the cultivator was beaten into a bloody mist and couldn't be more dead. Zhuowen's voice rang in the ears of Huang Yi and the others like a soul-reaping messenger from hell. They could not help but tremble in fear. Especially when they saw that their besiegement was useless against Zhuowen and that he was killing their cultivators as if they were chickens, they were truly terrified from the bottom of their hearts. Bang! 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 3, 4, 8. Zhuowen threw out 8 punches in a row and killed 8 people in one fell swoop. The remaining 5 or 6 people were all stunned. Their bodies trembled and they quickly retreated. Liu Qi, go. Hold this person back. Huang Yi was terrified. He quickly ordered his personal guard beside him and kept retreating. There were 4 people beside Huang Yi. They all huddled together and did not dare to get close to Zhuowen. Liu Qi was Huang Yi's personal guard. Liu Qi had already attacked Zhuowen when they were in the square. If it were not for the law enforcement patriarch's timely intervention, Zhuowen would have killed Liu Qi in the square. Liu Qi's expression was solemn. From Zhuowen's performance just now, he knew that this boy's strength was above his. However, he was very confident. He knew that the white-clothed young man in front of him was indeed powerful, but there was a limit to his strength. He had no problem holding this young man back for a while. Liu Qi waved his sleeve and took out a hook that looked like a crescent moon. The end of the hook was connected to a black chain. Clang! Clang! Liu Qi swung the hook with all his might. The hook flew out along with the chain like a long dragon. It was extremely fast as it meandered through the air. Not long after, the hook arrived in front of Zhuowen. Before Zhuowen could react, the hook suddenly sped up, bypassed Zhuowen, and went straight for the back of Zhuowen's head. Zhuowen stood in the same spot, not moving at all, as if he had not reacted at all. The corners of Liu Qi's mouth curled up into a grin. He knew that if this Zhuowen couldn't react in time, then he would definitely die. His natal divine artifact directly targeted a cultivator's divine soul. Once the back of the head was pierced, the divine soul would immediately receive a fatal blow and collapse. In Liu Qi's opinion, even a peak Hunyuan master would die if he didn't defend against his hook and allowed it to pierce into the back of his head. This bastard is dead for sure. When Huang Yi saw this scene from a short distance away, the corners of his mouth heaved a sigh of relief, and he revealed a rather happy expression and a trace of pleasure from taking revenge. Clang! The sound of metal clashing suddenly rang out. Immediately after, Liu Qi was shocked to find that the moment his natal divine artifact hit the back of Zhuowen's head, not only did it not pierce through, but it was also bounced off. It was as if the back of Zhuowen's head wasn't made of flesh and blood, but was forged from the hardest iron and stone. How is this possible? Liu Qi screamed and immediately tried to withdraw the hook. Unfortunately, Zhuowen had already made his move. As soon as he grasped the chain connected to the end of the hook, he exerted force with his palm, and the chain on the hook collapsed into powder. Zhuowen grabbed the hook and fiercely threw it out. His strength was extremely great, and wherever the hook passed, terrifying sparks would explode. This was a phenomenon caused by the intense friction with the air. The hook was too fast. Liu Qi had only turned around, but before he could even begin to run, the hook had already sunk into the back of his head. Liu Qi screamed and fell to the ground, motionless. Run! The moment Liu Qi was killed, Huang Yi realized that something was wrong. He had underestimated Zhuowen's strength. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately took out an escape talisman, crushed it, and disappeared on the spot. The four cultivators also crushed the escape talismans they carried with them and fled without hesitation. Unfortunately, Zhuowen naturally wouldn't let the four of them succeed. The moment the four of them crushed their escape talismans, Zhuowen used the spacetime ability, waning sun above the sea. In an instant, with Zhuowen as the center, the spacetime within a range of 10,000 feet in all directions was locked. The four cultivators who were a beat slower were immediately locked by the spacetime ability. Their bodies froze, and their movements slowed down. When they finally adapted to the spacetime lock of the waning sun above the sea, monstrous waves rose from the endless spacetime ocean below, instantly drowning the four cultivators. After the four cultivators let out a miserable scream, there was no more sound. Huang Yi, do you think you can escape? Zhuowen stopped using the spacetime ability and took out the spacetime roulette. Like a bolt of lightning, he instantly disappeared on the spot and chased after Huang Yi. The battle on Zhuowen's side was extremely short. When the battle ended and Zhuowen took out the spacetime roulette and left, the cultivators who heard the news arrived above the huge pit. When they found the huge pit that was extremely deep and still had the aura of the demon mirror fragments, they all thought that there must be a lot of demon mirror fragments before the huge pit. The crowd was in an uproar. At the same time, some of the cultivators who passed by before and saw Zhuowen made the connection. They knew that the cultivator who had obtained such a great advantage must be the one they mocked. Now that they thought about it, these cultivators who had mocked Zhuowen were filled with regret. They didn't expect that there would be such a huge amount of demon mirror fragments underground. We must find this person. I remember that this person is only the heavenly Tao Master. How can he be qualified to have so many demon mirror fragments with such a low cultivation level? We must kill him and take the demon mirror fragments. Spread the news. I have this person's image, so I can easily recognize him. Let's kill him together and split the demon mirror fragments equally. Therefore, more and more cultivators found out that a cultivator who was only the heavenly Tao master was very lucky to have dug a huge pit with at least 100,000 demon mirror fragments. The cultivators in the entire endless world began to spontaneously search for the lucky cultivator, all wanting to take advantage of him. If the person who had obtained such a terrifying number of demon mirror fragments was a terrifying existence like the galaxy of stars, no one would have any ideas about it. Chapter 2745.Ke Tiancheng brother Zhuo actually obtained so many demon mirror fragments. Now that they've been exposed, I'm afraid it's not a good thing. He'll be hated by everyone in this place. In a forest world, a young man looked at the communication jade talisman in his hand with a worried expression. This person was Chen Fa from the Hall of Criminal Law. The message was sent by a few of his good friends. With the help of the communication between friends, the message spread very quickly. Hee. Interesting. Isn't this the Zhuo Wen who beat up second brother in the square last time? This guy's strength is weak, but his luck is heaven-defying. He actually dug out so many demon mirror fragments. However, these demon mirror fragments will soon be mine. In the dark cloud world, the galaxy of stars put away the communication jade talisman and licked his lips with a bloodthirsty look in his eyes. Those who knew the galaxy of stars knew that this was a sign that the galaxy of stars had found a new prey. Cultivators who were targeted by the galaxy of stars did not have a good ending. This Zhuo Wen is quite lucky. It seems that I'll have to find this guy again. In a waterfall, the corners of Huang Ju's mouth curled up slightly. There were 5 cultivators behind him. These 5 cultivators were all primordial chaos masters. The weakest one was at the early stage of primordial chaos master, while the strongest one was already at the peak of primordial chaos master. Huang Ju had already become a half-step destiny master. In addition, many cultivators had joined the ranks of searching for Zhuo Wen. Even the extremely famous Yunyang Hall's Zhao Nianmeng, Tianluo Hall's Ku Tiancheng, and the Hall of Rules Liu Long were the same. In the face of the temptation of 100,000 demon mirror fragments, almost no cultivator could resist. The protagonist of this incident, Zhuo Wen, did not know that he was wanted by everyone and had become a delicious prey in everyone's eyes. At this moment, he was activating the space-time roulette. Its speed was extremely fast, almost surpassing the speed of light. Soon, he saw the back of Huang Yi, who was escaping with the help of the escape talisman. Huang Yi noticed Zhuo Wen, who flashed over explosively from behind as well, and he was terrified out of his wits, causing him to madly withdraw another escape talisman before crushing it with the intention of speeding up. Unfortunately, no matter how fast Huang Yi's escape talisman was, it was not faster than the speed of the empty roulette. Not long after, Zhuo Wen caught up with Huang Yi. Zhuo Wen impolitely grabbed Huang Yi by the collar and lifted him in front of him. Zhuo Wen, I'm the second son of the Huangji clan. Do you dare to kill me? Huang Yi shouted himself hoarse. However, Huang Yi's trembling body betrayed him. Idiot! Zhuo Wen merely uttered these 2 words as he pointed his sword finger at Huang Yi's glabella. Huang Yi's eyes were wide open as he breathed his last breath. His spiritual soul dissipated and he could not be more dead. After killing Huang Yi, Zhuo Wen took out Huang Yi's storage ring and retrieved all the demon mirror fragments from it. Although in the world of the Sun-Moon demonic mirror, only a trace of the primordial spirit had entered it, the Sun-Moon demonic mirror was extremely powerful. The simulation was almost the same as the real world. The usage and retrieval of the spiritual ring were exactly the same as the outside world. Zhuo Wen was looking forward to it. He knew that with the 100,000 demon mirror fragments, it would not be a problem for his original body to advance to the Daoyuan Master Realm. I need to find a place to cultivate in seclusion, Zhuo Wen muttered. When he was about to leave the place, his eyes turned cold. Immediately, a burst of 7-colored energy burst out from the ground under his feet. It fell like rain and instantly enveloped Zhuo Wen. Zhuo Wen's eyes were cold. The moment he put away the space-time roulette, he left the place. When he appeared 1,000 meters away, he happened to see the 7-colored energy explode where Zhuo Wen had been. The terrifying energy was constantly compressed and burst. If an ordinary Hunyuan master was not careful, He would be seriously injured even if he did not die. Hey! You didn't die. Your reaction is not bad. A soft sound of surprise was heard. Immediately, a figure broke out from the ground below and floated in the air. He looked at Zhuowen in surprise. This person was quite handsome. He had a standard square face and a dignified temperament. After this person broke out of the ground, another 3 figures followed closely behind him, all of them looking at Zhuowen with malicious intentions. Senior brother Ku, we are lucky to meet this guy. As long as we kill this guy, we can get 100,000 demon mirror fragments. A round-faced cultivator behind the square-faced man said excitedly. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. It seemed that the news that he had obtained 100,000 demon mirror fragments had spread so quickly. This made Zhuowen a little speechless. Originally, he thought that it would take some time for the news to spread. Now, the news had spread as soon as he had obtained 100,000 demon mirror fragments. It seemed that he would inevitably become the target of public criticism. The 4 people in front of him were obviously here for the 100,000 demon mirror fragments. Wealth moved people's hearts. I am Ku Tiancheng of the Tianluo Hall. I don't want to know your name. Now, hand over the 100,000 demon mirror fragments and I will not kill you. I will let you continue to gain experience in this infinite world. The square-faced man put his hands behind his back and looked at Zhuowen proudly. In his eyes, Zhuowen was just a worthless heavenly Tao master. It was completely lucky for him to obtain 100,000 demon mirror fragments. Now that he, Ku Tiancheng, was a famous genius in the Huangji family, it was natural for him to take the 100,000 demon mirror fragments from the hands of the heavenly Tao master. Senior brother Ku is indeed benevolent. He actually plans to let this ant go. If it were me, I wouldn't even waste my breath. I would kill this kid and take away the 100,000 demon mirror fragments from this ant. How can we compare to senior brother Ku? He is a magnanimous person. We can't compare to him. Kid, if you know what's good for you, quickly hand over the 100,000 demon mirror fragments. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite. The 3 cultivators behind Ku Tiancheng spoke one after another. Their words could be said to be full of admiration for Ku Tiancheng. This made Ku Tiancheng feel extremely comfortable as his gaze landed on Zhuowen. What if I don't give it to you? Zhuowen spoke slowly. Immediately, the 3 cultivators who were talking one after another were stunned. The surroundings also became unbearably silent. Then you are courting death. Senior brother Ku, you don't even need to deal with this kind of ant. I will deal with it for you. The round-faced cultivator was the first to react. Without waiting for the other 2 cultivators to react, he flew out alone and used a killing move. It was obvious that he wanted to kill Zhuowen with a single move. The remaining 2 cultivators had looks of regret on their faces. They hated themselves for being too slow and allowing the round-faced cultivator to beat them to it. Zhuowen stretched out his right hand and grabbed the round-faced cultivator's fist. Then, he twisted it fiercely. The round-faced cultivator let out a miserable scream as his right arm was twisted. Chapter 2746. Desperate, the surroundings were dead silent. The smiles on the faces of Ku Tiancheng and the 2 cultivators behind him froze. What's going on? The heavenly Tao master killed Yuan Biao in one move. How can he be so strong? The 2 cultivators looked at each other and saw fear and disbelief in each other's eyes. Ku Tiancheng's eyes darkened. He looked coldly at Zhuowen and said, "It seems that you have hidden your strength well. Although your cultivation is not high, your strength is actually so strong. It seems that you didn't get the 100,000 demon mirror fragments by luck. However, you met me today. If you don't want to be eliminated now, hand over the 100,000 demon mirror fragments. I'll spare your life and let you go." Ku Tiancheng's tone was domineering and unquestionable. Although Zhuowen's display of strength had shocked him, in his opinion, the gap between him and this kid was still too big. If this kid fought against him, he would definitely lose. Therefore, he felt that the wisest choice was for this kid to hand over the 100,000 demon mirror fragments to save his life. Zhuowen glanced at Ku Tiancheng indifferently and said, "I've said it before. These 100,000 demon mirror fragments are mine. Why should I give them to you? Whether it's that person or you, what right do you have to ask for them in front of me? And what obligation do I have to hand them over to you?" Hearing this, Ku Tiancheng's face darkened. "You really don't know what's good for you. Do you really think you're invincible after killing Yuan Biao? Yes, senior brother Ku is now a half-step heavenly fate master. You're just an ant in front of him. He didn't kill you and only asked you to hand over the demon mirror fragments. That's already the greatest mercy. How dare you refuse?" The two cultivators behind Ku Tiancheng continued to mock Zhuowen. Moreover, the two of them hinted that Ku Tiancheng should kill Zhuowen and snatch the demon mirror fragments. Ku Tiancheng pressed his right hand down, and the two of them immediately fell silent. "Looks like you're refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Ku Tiancheng's eyes were cold as he looked at Zhuowen. He no longer concealed the killing intent in his eyes. Boom! A terrifying aura burst out from Ku Tiancheng's body, forming a terrifying energy storm behind him. From afar, this energy storm looked like a ferocious head that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. It looked down as if it wanted to swallow the mountains and rivers. The two cultivators behind Ku Tiancheng had already distanced themselves from him. Both of them were only Dao Yuan masters. The reason why they could follow Ku Tiancheng was that they were disciples of Qianluo Hall and could be considered as Ku Tiancheng's junior brothers. When Ku Tiancheng met the two of them in the Endless World, he naturally brought them along on the account that they were from the same sect. Otherwise, given Ku Tiancheng's character, it was impossible for him to bring two burdens with him. Zhuowen stood quietly on the spot, his eyes as calm as an ancient well. Ku Tiancheng was indeed a genius, although he was only a half-step destiny master. However, the aura he emitted was extremely vast and terrifying. It was no weaker than that of an ordinary destiny master. Zhuowen knew that Ku Tiancheng could fight with an ordinary destiny master based on the aura that Ku Tiancheng was displaying. However, Zhuowen was not afraid at all. His Pangu sacred body was only at the peak of the 3-star level. However, the power of the Pangu sacred body was much stronger than that of an ordinary cultivator. According to Zhuowen's estimation, the strength of the 3-star Pangu sacred body was comparable to that of Master Xuanji. It was much stronger than that of a destiny master, let alone Ku Tiancheng, who was only a half-step destiny master. "Are you sure you want to fight?" Zhuowen asked faintly. Ku Tiancheng laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He looked coldly at Zhuowen and said, "Why shouldn't I fight? Because if you fight, I'm afraid you'll regret it. At that time, you'll even lose your life. I'm just reminding you out of kindness so that you won't regret it," Zhuowen said carelessly. This guy really has a problem with his brain. Senior brother Ku can completely destroy this little bastard with one move. This little bastard still dares to be so arrogant. The two cultivators standing behind Ku Tiancheng in the distance sneered. Their voices were very loud and had no intention of hiding it. Ku Tiancheng did not speak anymore. He took a step forward and shot out like an arrow toward Zhuowen. In Ku Tiancheng's eyes, Zhuowen was already a dead man. There was no need for him to waste his breath on a dead man. Boom! Zhuowen punched out and collided with Ku Tiancheng's fist. Immediately, the crisp sound of bones cracking was heard. Ku Tiancheng's fist shattered directly. Even his entire arm was bent and twisted. Ku Tiancheng's reaction was very fast. The moment the fist shattered, he immediately retreated and dodged Zhuowen's next short-kill punch. The fight between Zhuowen and Ku Tiancheng was very short. It was only one move, but the outcome was obvious. Zhuowen was still standing in the same place. His feet had not moved at all. On the other hand, Ku Tiancheng was in an extremely sorry state. Not only was his right hand bent, but he had also suffered serious internal injuries. He spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale and his eyes were in a trance. The two cultivators who were talking in the distance were stunned and speechless when they saw the two people who had separated in the blink of an eye. Especially when they saw that Ku Tiancheng was actually crippled in one move, the shock in their hearts reached an extreme level. "Who the hell are you?" Ku Tiancheng hurriedly took a few steps back again and looked at the white-clothed young man in front of him in shock. He felt more deeply than the two people who were watching the fight in the distance. The moment his fist collided with Zhuowen's, he felt a force that even he was afraid of erupting from his opponent's fist. At that moment, he felt the threat of death. It was precisely because he felt the threat of death that Ku Tiancheng immediately retreated and was lucky enough to avoid Zhuowen's next fatal punch. Zhuowen did not answer Ku Tiancheng's question. Instead, he took a step forward and turned into an afterimage as he rushed toward Ku Tiancheng. Ku Tiancheng's pupils shrank. His eyes flickered, but he did not escape immediately. Instead, he roared and the aura in his body soared dozens of times in an instant. His aura was so vast that it was as if it could swallow the sun and the moon. Even Zhuowen was a little moved. His burning his blood essence. Zhuowen was surprised. He quickly guessed Ku Tiancheng's actions. Bang! Ku Tiancheng stomped on the ground, causing the entire ground to shake violently as if there was an earthquake. Ku Tiancheng was like a furious lion as he rushed toward Zhuowen recklessly. Boom! 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 In an instant, Zhuowen and Ku Tiancheng bombarded each other. Their fists were slanting on each other's body as if their lives depended on it. It had to be said that Ku Tiancheng's strength and speed had increased greatly after burning his blood essence. Even Zhuowen could not catch Ku Tiancheng's movements sometimes, so he was hit in the vital parts of his body by Ku Tiancheng's fists. Fortunately, Zhuowen's Pangu sacred body was too hard. Although Ku Tiancheng's attacks were powerful, they only caused minor injuries when they hit the Pangu sacred body. Chapter 2747. Chapter 2. Ku Tiancheng and Zhuowen were courting death by fighting each other head-on. Zhuowen knew that the reason why Ku Tiancheng was still attacking was that he was holding on to the last breath in his body. If he released his last breath, Ku Tiancheng would immediately lose all his fighting strength and die from serious injuries. Zhuowen admired Ku Tiancheng's stubbornness. Although Ku Tiancheng was here to snatch his things, Zhuowen admired his stubbornness. Ku Tiancheng, let me send you on your last journey. Zhuowen's faint voice was heard. Then, he clenched his right hand into a fist, and the sound of bamboo joints exploding was heard. Zhuowen's right hand suddenly punched out. The power of this punch was too terrifying. While it was still in the air, there were continuous sounds of thunder. At the same time, wherever the fist passed, there were many kinds of strange phenomena, such as storms, thunderbolts, flames, etc. It was terrifying and harmful. Puff! Ku Tiancheng spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale, but there was not much fear in his eyes. Instead, they were full of fighting spirit. Knowing that he was no match for Zhuowen in a head-on fight, he still punched out at Zhuowen. Puff! Ku Tiancheng's arm exploded into a bloody foam. Then, the power was too terrifying. It spread from Ku Tiancheng's arm to his whole body. Finally, Ku Tiancheng exploded into a bloody fog. His body and soul were completely destroyed. Zhuowen withdrew his fist and stood there, his gaze falling on the two cultivators in the distance. Seeing Zhuowen looking at them, the two practitioners hurriedly knelt on the ground and begged for mercy, hoping that Zhuowen would let them live. The two were very smart. After seeing Zhuowen's strength, they knew that it was useless to run away. They might as well put down their pride and beg for mercy. Maybe Zhuowen would let them go out of compassion. Unfortunately, Zhuowen did not give them a chance. He waved his sleeves and shot out two flowing lights. The two of them didn't even have time to react before they were killed by the two streams of light. After killing Ku Tiancheng and the other two, the energy of the demon mirror fragments in their bodies flowed into Zhuowen's body. It was especially so for Zhuowen. The energy of the demon mirror fragment in his body was too vast. Zhuowen's cultivation had improved by a large margin. However, there was still a long way to go before he could become a Dao Yuan master. Zhuowen knew that if he wanted to become a Dao Yuan master, he would have to rely on the 100,000 demon mirror fragments. Thinking of this, Zhuowen was eager to find a place for seclusion. However, in the process of looking for a place for seclusion, Zhuowen often encountered cultivators who were looking for him. Every time a cultivator saw him, they would immediately recognize him and rush towards Zhuowen like moths to a flame, unceremoniously trying to kill him. All along the way, to Zhuowen, it was simply a path of slaughter. It was a path of bones that was built with blood and piles of bones. In the huge square of the Huangji clan, the Sun-Moon demonic mirror stood quietly at the top of the central tower. At this moment, the Sun-Moon demonic mirror displayed the names of the people who were listed in order. There were only a total of 100 names. Among the 100 names displayed on the mirror, the first name was Galaxy of Stars, the second name was Huangju, and the third to fifth names were Liu Long, Zhao Nianmeng, and Ku Tiancheng respectively. At the head of the square, Huang Wu stood with his hands behind his back. He smiled as he looked at the first and second names displayed on the Sun-Moon demonic mirror. Big Brother, Galaxy of Stars and Huangju did not disappoint us. They took the first and second places respectively. The fat second head, Huang Shan, grinned and laughed loudly. His voice was loud and arrogant. Congratulations to the two heads. The fourth prince and the fifth prince are geniuses among the direct descendants. This is really a blessing to the Huangji clan. Together with the first prince, the Huangji clan's meteoric rise is just around the corner. That's right, that's right. The Huangji clan will be even more prosperous under the leadership of the princes. Many hall masters in the square cupped their hands and congratulated Huang Wu and Huang Shan. Disciplinary Elder, our Hall of Rules Liu Long is now third, but I don't seem to see anyone from your Hall of Penal Law in the top 10. Oh, I'm sorry. I seem to be in the top 100, but I don't see any disciples from your Hall of Penal Law. There was something wrong with my eyes just now. Please forgive me, Disciplinary Elder. In the square, the Hall of Rules Hall Master, Shan Tianlong, stood beside the Disciplinary Elder. He raised his head and looked at the Sun-Moon demonic mirror. The Disciplinary Elder's eyes were gloomy, but he was very anxious in his heart. In his opinion, it shouldn't be a problem for Chen Fa to enter the top 100, and it was also very likely for Zhuowen to enter the top 10. However, Chen Fa and Zhuowen didn't enter the top 100, let alone the top 10. This made the Disciplinary Elder very suspicious. Did Chen Fa and Zhuowen get eliminated? However, after looking around, he found that Chen Fa and Zhuowen were still sitting cross-legged around the central tower. There were no signs of them waking up. It was obvious that the two of them hadn't been eliminated. Suddenly, everyone noticed that there was a change in the top of the tower. An unfamiliar name quickly jumped up and landed in the second position, pushing Huangju to the third position. Everyone focused their eyes and found that the name in the second position was Zhuowen. To everyone, this name was extremely unfamiliar. Many of them had never heard of this name before. Who is this person? How come I've never heard of a genius called Zhuowen in the Huangji clan? To be able to enter the top 10, he must be a famous genius in the Huangji clan. It's really strange that I've never heard of this person. When Zhuowen's name entered the second position, it caused a great uproar in the square. Discussions were like a tsunami, wave after wave, layer after layer. The Disciplinary Elder, who was originally frowning, almost jumped up in joy when he found that Zhuowen's name was in the second position. Shan Tianlong, who was standing beside the Disciplinary Elder, had a gloomy face. He was familiar with the name Zhuowen. He knew that this guy had the lowest cultivation among the disciples sent by the Disciplinary Elder. He was only the master of the heavenly law. Before the start of the High God competition, Shan Tianlong had mocked Zhuowen's cultivation. Chapter 2748. Breaking through to the Dao Yuan Master realm. Looking at the complacent expression on the Enforcement Elder's face, Shan Tianlong was extremely displeased and said coldly, Zhuowen should be lucky to have found the underground space with a large number of demonic mirror fragments. However, this can only mean that he is lucky. The real ranking is actually decided in the last month before the end of the High God Assembly. This kid's cultivation is so weak that he is at the bottom of the High God Assembly. If he can't keep so many demonic mirror fragments, I'm afraid he will be eliminated very soon. The Enforcement Elder didn't reply. He knew that Shan Tianlong was only saying this because he wanted to save face. However, he knew Zhuowen's strength. He knew that with Zhuowen's strength, He had the confidence to enter the top 10. Even if it was the final battle royal, it wouldn't be a problem for him to remain in the top 10. Seeing that the enforcement elder didn't say anything, Shan Tianlong snorted coldly and didn't say anything. He didn't want to look for trouble. Who is this Zhuowen? When did such a genius appear in our Huangji clan? At the front of the square, Huang Wu frowned slightly and couldn't help but ask Huang Wuqi and the other higher-ups behind him. However, the answer he received was that they didn't know. Even Huang Wuqi didn't know who Zhuowen was. This person's luck is pretty good. He should have found the huge vein of the demonic mirror fragments and obtained a large number of demonic mirror fragments. That's why his ranking jumped from the top 100 to the second place in an instant. However, this kid's luck won't always be so good. When the real battle royal begins, this kid should be eliminated immediately. Huang Wuqi shook his head and didn't care about Zhuowen, who occupied the second place at all. Huang Wu and Huang Shan nodded. They believed that Zhuowen must have found a large number of demonic mirror fragments by luck to occupy the second place. As for this kid's strength and talent, it was probably just passable. They were afraid that he would be exposed soon. At the same time, 3 figures suddenly stood up around the tower. One of the figures caused an uproar among the surrounding cultivators. It was because this figure was none other than Ku Qiancheng, the number 1 genius of Qianluo Hall, who was one of the 5 most favored candidates this time. At this moment, Ku Qiancheng walked out of the fence with an ugly expression and walked towards the team from Qianluo Hall. The hall master of Qianluo Hall was an old man with a rosacea nose. When he saw that Ku Qiancheng had been eliminated just like that, his face was especially gloomy. Qiancheng, who eliminated you? Is it the galaxy of stars, Huang Ju, or Zhao Nianming and Liu Long? The old man with rosacea asked. Ku Qiancheng sighed softly and shook his head, saying, I don't know that person's name, but that person is very strong. He is only the heavenly law lord, but he has the strength of the heavenly fate lord and even the lord of profound secrets. I was eliminated by that person. Now, he was completely dispirited. He never thought that he and the white-robed young man would be so terrifyingly strong. It was unbelievable that a heavenly Dao Lord could kill him. Ku Qiancheng was not the only one who found it unbelievable. Even the old man with rosacea found it unbelievable. He thought that his disciple's brain might have gone haywire. How could he say such nonsense now? The news that Ku Qiancheng was defeated by a heavenly Dao Lord spread quietly among the people in the square. Of course, everyone treated it as a joke. No one believed that a mere heavenly Dao Lord could defeat Ku Qiancheng, who was already a half-step heavenly fate lord. After all, the gap between their realms was too big. Zhuowen was covered in blood. Finally, he found a natural cave. This was the most secluded place he could find along the way. Now that Zhuowen went out, almost all the cultivators he encountered would attack him. He knew that it was because of the 100,000 demon mirror fragments on him. Although Zhuowen was covered in blood, Zhuowen knew that he was not seriously injured. Most of the blood on his body belonged to other cultivators. Zhuowen spent half a day to set up a huge defensive array, surveillance array, and trap and kill array at the entrance of the cave. Then, he entered the depths of the cave. Finally, I have time to absorb the demon mirror fragments. I hope that these demon mirror fragments can help my cultivation to advance to the Daoyuan Master Realm. Zhuowen muttered to himself. He took out a pile of demon mirror fragments and began to absorb the rich energy in these demon mirror fragments crazily. Time flew by. Another month had passed. Half a year had passed since the beginning of the bustling God Conference. The battles between the cultivators in the endless world were getting more and more intense. The matter of the 100,000 demon mirror fragments on Zhuowen's body was slowly forgotten by everyone in the past month. If Zhuowen were to appear outside again, he wouldn't be in a situation where he was besieged on all sides and wanted to be beaten up by everyone. Boom! The depths of a cave suddenly exploded, and a figure slowly walked out from the dust. His entire body was elegant, and not a single speck of dust was stained on him. This person was Zhuowen, who had been in seclusion for a month. At that moment, Zhuowen's eyes were bright and full of expression, like the bright stars in the sky. Finally, I have broken through to the Daoyuan Master Realm. However, the energy in my Daoyuan Master Realm is so rich that it is no less than the peak of Hunyuan Master. Now, even if I don't use the power of the Pangu Sacred Body, I can still fight with the peak of Hunyuan Master Realm with my Daoyuan Master Realm. I can even have an overwhelming advantage. Zhuo Wen smiled faintly as he muttered to himself. The harvest of this month could be said to be extremely bountiful for him. Soon, Zhuo Wen's communication jade charm rang. Zhuo Wen picked it up and found that it was a message from Chen Fa. After reading the message, Zhuo Wen took out the space-time roulette, chose a direction, turned into a streamer, and disappeared. According to the message from Chen Fa, he found the huge demon mirror fragment's earth vein and needed Zhuo Wen's help. Time was running out. This was a world full of steel. Everything here was made of steel. Whether it was flowers, trees, birds, or beasts, they were all made of steel. In a steel canyon, Chen Fa and his 5 fellow disciples were trapped by a group of people. The leader of this group was an extremely arrogant and domineering young man. His yellow hair stood up like the spikes on a hedgehog. He was very unique. At this moment, the young man was holding a communication jade charm in his hand and was sending some kind of message. Liu Long, what do you want? Chen Fa saw Liu Long using the communication jade charm and could not help but ask anxiously. The young man named Liu Long casually threw the communication jade talisman in his hand at Chen Fa's feet after he finished inputting the information. He said indifferently, Chen Fa, your communication jade talisman is pretty useful. You managed to gather all the brothers and sisters of the Hall of Penal Law in no time. By the way, we are still missing that Heavenly Law Master Trash. I have already sent a message to that Trash and gave him the location. I think that Trash will be here soon. When that Trash arrives, I will take care of all the participants in the Hall of Penal Law. Chapter 2749. Liu Long. Chen Fa's eyes were gloomy as he glared at Liu Long. Liu Long, are you planning to eliminate all of us from the Hall of Punishment? Liu Long chuckled. Chen Fa, you're really slow. I used your communication talisman to gather so many of your brothers and sisters, and you're only reacting now? Chen Fa had a guilty expression as he faced his 5 brothers and sisters. Junior brother, junior sister, I, Chen Fa, have let you down. The 5 people standing behind Chen Fa were all disciples of the Hall of Punishment, 3 men and 2 women. Zhuo Wen had seen them before entering the convention. The 5 of them shook their heads and comforted Chen Fa not to blame himself too much. Senior brother Chen, senior brother Zhuo is very strong. If he comes, I think he can save us. One of the female disciples was quite optimistic. Chen Fa was silent, but there was also some hope in his heart. Back then, Zhuo Wen had displayed his might in the Hall of Punishment and defeated Zhu Ling. One had to know that Zhu Ling was also a half-step Heaven's Mandate Master, the same as Liu Long. Although Liu Long's combat strength was slightly stronger than Zhu Ling's, it was not by much. Since Zhuo Wen could defeat Zhu Ling, there was a high chance that he could defeat Liu Long. Of course, as the number 1 genius of the Hall of Punishment, Liu Long's strength wasn't limited to this. He was much stronger than ordinary half-step Heaven's Mandate Masters and could reach the strength of ordinary Heaven's Mandate Masters. In Chen Fa's opinion, even if Zhuo Wen couldn't defeat Liu Long, it shouldn't be a problem for him to save them from Liu Long. At this thought, Chen Fa felt a lot more relaxed. Liu Long's face was full of disdain. Oh, when did the Hall of Beheadings and Executions fall so low? He mocked. You're relying on the ant-like Heavenly Tao Master to save you? And you really believe that the ant-like Heavenly Tao Master has the ability to save you? Don't make me laugh my head off. If senior brother Zhuo was here, I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to laugh. You should know that even our Vice Hall Master was defeated by him. You're only a half-step Heaven's Will Lord. The female disciple was indignant. Liu Long's eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a contemplative look. If what this female disciple said was true, then Zhuo Wen's strength was too strong. Moreover, he was only the Heavenly Tao Master. Making things up. Are you trying to scare me? Liu Long walked up and slapped the female disciple's face, causing her to fall to the ground, barely breathing. What is Zhu Ling? He's just a guy who knows how to curry favor with others to obtain cultivation resources. How can he be compared to me? Back when I wasn't a half-step Heaven's Will Lord, I might have been afraid of Zhu Ling. But now that I'm also a half-step Heaven's Will Lord, I can defeat that trash in one move. It doesn't matter if the heavenly Tao master you speak of is really that strong. If he comes in front of me, I can still trample him under my feet and ruthlessly trample him. Liu Long kicked the female disciple again, causing her to groan in pain and fall unconscious. Chen Fa and the others hurriedly brought the female disciple back to their side. Their eyes were filled with hatred as they glared at the arrogant Liu Long. Zhuo Wen drove the space-time roulette at an extremely fast speed like a stream of light. After leaving seclusion, Zhuo Wen had used a secret technique to change his appearance slightly. At the same time, he also concealed his aura. More than a month ago, he was besieged by many cultivators and fought a bloody battle. Now that he thought about it, it was somewhat tiring. Therefore, in order to avoid being discovered, Zhuo Wen restrained himself. Fortunately, although Zhuo Wen encountered many cultivators along the way, none of them recognized Zhuo Wen. Zhuo Wen knew that if they recognized him, he would have been besieged long ago. At that time, he would definitely be in a difficult situation. Zhuo Wen didn't want to expose himself so quickly. He knew that in the later stages of the Flourishing God Conference, there would definitely be a large battle royal spontaneously. At that time, it would be a real killing situation. At the same time, it was also the most crucial time of the Flourishing God Conference. The final ranking of the Flourishing God Conference would be completely decided at that time. I'm about to reach the location Brother Chen sent me. Zhuo Wen exclaimed softly. His powerful spiritual sense had already swept the scene within a range of 3,000 meters. The world he had entered was a world full of steel. Every blade of grass and every tree was cast from steel. In a certain canyon in this world, there was a group of people confronting each other. Rather than calling it a confrontation, it was more accurate to say that one side had surrounded the cultivators of the other side who were at a disadvantage. Zhuo Wen was no stranger to the group of people who were at a disadvantage. They were Chen Fa and the others from the Hall of Penal Laws. Zhuo Wen was also no stranger to the insolent young man who was leading the group. He was the #1 genius of the Hall of Penal Laws. Liu Long. Chen Fa had mentioned this person to him before because the Hall of Penal Laws and the Hall of Penal Laws had never been on good terms. The disciples of the Hall of Penal Laws participating in the Flourishing God Conference would definitely be targeted by Liu Long and his group. At that time, Chen Fa had only wanted to give Zhuo Wen a reminder. At the same time, Zhuo Wen noticed the communication jade talisman that was casually thrown on the ground. He recognized the communication jade talisman. It was Chen Fa's. Soon, Zhuo Wen figured out the details of this matter. Most likely, there was no such thing as a huge demonic mirror fragment earth vein in this place. Moreover, this news was not sent by Chen Fa himself. It should have been deliberately released by Liu Long. His purpose was obvious. He wanted Zhuo Wen to come and let Liu Long catch them all in one fell swoop. Thinking up to here, Zhuo Wen sneered in his heart and didn't conceal it. Instead, he leisurely charged towards the gorge, and under the gazes of Liu Long and the others, he descended into the gorge. When Liu Long and the others saw Zhuo Wen land in front of them, they could not help but be stunned. Obviously, they did not expect Zhuo Wen to be so arrogant. He knew that they were in the canyon, but not only did he not run away, he even landed so calmly. Liu Long from the Hall of Penal Laws? Zhuo Wen landed on the ground and slowly walked towards Liu Long. Liu Long grinned and looked Zhuo Wen up and down, saying, "It seems that my luck is quite good. I caught a fat sheep. I heard that a month ago, you found a huge demonic mirror fragment earth vein, and you also obtained 100,000 demonic mirror fragments inside. Is that true?" Chapter 2750. Killing ants like killing ants. Yes, I did obtain 100,000 demon mirror fragment. To Liu Long and the others' surprise, Zhuo Wen admitted it generously. Chen Fa and the others looked anxious. They felt that it was unwise for Zhuo Wen to admit it like that. However, there was nothing they could do. Right now, they couldn't even protect themselves, not to mention having to worry about Zhuo Wen. They simply couldn't care less. Liu Long's eyes were filled with fire. He shrugged at Zhuo and said arrogantly, "If that's the case, hurry up and hand it over. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep your life." Zhuo sneered. Liu Long had a good idea. He stretched out his hand to ask for the demon mirror fragments as if they were his own. "Idiot, it's been a month. I've already absorbed the 100,000 demon mirror fragments. How can I give them to you?" Zhuo said indifferently. Liu Long's eyes darkened. He laughed sinisterly and said, "Since you've already absorbed them, you should die. After I kill you, the energy of the demon mirror fragments in your body will naturally be mine." After saying that, Liu Long took a step forward and pointed with his right finger. An extremely strange black thunderbolt condensed on Liu Long's fingertip. The black thunderbolt was extremely dark and deep. It was like a strange energy from hell, blooming with a terrifying light. "Thunder Soul demonic finger, you'll die here today to fulfill my wish. After killing you, I'll be able to completely advance to the heavenly fate master. In this boundless world, who can compete with me?" Liu Long's eyes were ferocious and full of pride. When he pointed with his finger, the black thunderbolt cut through the void and formed a thunderstorm that covered Zhuo. The moment Liu Long made his move, the 8 cultivators beside Liu Long also made their move. The 8 cultivators were very smart. They knew very well that if they attacked and killed a cultivator at the same time, they would also be able to get a share of the loot from the cultivator and obtain a portion of the demon mirror fragments energy when the cultivator died. Liu Long did not say much about the little scheme of his fellow disciples. He just turned a blind eye to it. In his opinion, the power of his Thunder Soul demonic finger was the most terrifying. It would definitely be a fatal blow to Zhuo. After Zhuo Wen's death, he would undoubtedly obtain the most demon mirror fragments. He did not particularly mind sharing some of them with his senior and junior brothers. After all, they were from the same sect. Since they could meet in this boundless world, he should naturally take care of them. Bam bam bam! In the endless thunderstorm, there was an endless series of terrifying attacks. It was like a chain of explosions, and the energy that escaped was extremely terrifying. Chen Fei's face was gloomy, and the female disciple's face was as pale as snow. There was a look of dismay in her eyes. She knew that everything was because of her. If she did not reveal Zhuowen's background, Liu Long would not have used his full strength at the beginning to target Zhuowen. Now, Liu Long used a killing move at the beginning. Coupled with the help of the 8 fellow disciples, they really had no reason to believe that Zhuowen could survive such a terrifying explosion. Just as Liu Long and the others were waiting for the energy of the demon mirror fragments on Zhuowen to flow into their bodies, they all realized that something was not right. Immediately, they realized that a boundless ocean had appeared around them. It was not an ordinary ocean, but a space-time ocean filled with space-time vortexes. At the end of the ocean, there was a huge purple sun floating in the sky. "Waning sun of the sea," a faint voice sounded. Immediately, above the purple sun, a white-robed young man walked out slowly. The white-robed young man's eyes were cold. He pointed his right finger, and the calm space-time ocean set off monstrous waves. The terrifying waves were higher than the previous one. The 9 people, including Liu Long, were in the middle of the ocean. They were all covered by the huge dragons, and their screams were heard continuously. When the huge waves calmed down, except for Liu Long, the other 8 people were all brought to the bottom of the ocean by the huge waves and died completely. Space-time supernatural power? You bastard! Liu Long's eyes were filled with fear. He pointed his hands, and black thunderbolts swept out like electric snakes. They wriggled up into the sky and broke through the huge waves one after another. Liu Long's combat strength was indeed not bad. The space-time confinement power of the space-time ocean was extremely terrifying. However, after adapting to it for a period of time, he could move freely and his speed was not slow. "I will definitely kill you." Liu Long's eyes were wide open. He split open a huge wave and shot towards Zhuowen. Black thunderbolts wrapped around his body, making him look like a thunder god descending from the sky. Except for him, all the disciples of the Law Hall had been eliminated by Zhuowen. Liu Long recalled that before entering the Sun-Moon demonic mirror, he had patted his chest and promised Hall Master Shan Tianlong that he would lead the disciples of the Law Hall to get into the top 100 and that he would definitely do it. Now, all 8 of his senior brothers had been eliminated by Zhuowen right before his eyes. To him, this was undoubtedly a resounding slap to his face, and he was unable to endure it. Zhuowen looked indifferently at Liu Long, who was rushing towards him. He pointed his right finger at the purple sun in the sky and pulled. Immediately, the purple sun fell rapidly and smashed onto Liu Long. Liu Long was smashed to the point that he almost vomited bile. His entire body was smashed into the depths of the spacetime sea. When Liu Long struggled to leave the depths of the spacetime sea, the purple sun smashed down again under Zhuowen's control. All of Liu Long's struggles were in vain as he was smashed into the depths of the spacetime sea once again. After repeating this several times, Liu Long could no longer hold on and did not resurface. The purple sun rose once again and hung in the sky, emitting a purple light. When the spacetime sea had completely disappeared, Chen Fa and the others finally regained their senses. They hurriedly came before Zhuowen and looked at Zhuowen as if they were looking at a monster. Liu Long was very powerful. He was much stronger than Zhuling back then. Originally, they thought that it would be a fierce battle between Zhuowen and Liu Long. However, they did not expect that Liu Long was like a puppet in Zhuowen's hands. He was easily suppressed and killed. Brother Zhuo, are you really the Heavenly Tao Master? Chen Fa was stunned and could not help but ask the question in his heart. Zhuowen smiled and said, I'm not the Heavenly Tao Master. I've already advanced to become a Tao Yuan Master. When I was just the Heavenly Tao Master, I defeated Zhuling. This Liu Long's strength is indeed not bad, but my strength has also increased a lot. Killing Liu Long is like killing an ant. Chen Fa and the others were shocked and looked at Zhuowen with reverence. Among the geniuses of the entire Huangji family, only the galaxy of stars dared to say that killing Liu Long was like killing an ant. Now, there was another Zhuowen. Chapter 2751. The great competition begins alright, there's no need for you to look at me like that. There are still 5 months left until the start of the convention. I'll be the one leading the team, and you'll have to listen to my commands. I'll have all of you enter the top 10 of the convention, and your hall of beheadings and executions will be the biggest winner of the convention. After Zhuowen said this, he actually felt a little guilty. He had participated in the exquisite god competition with his own selfish motives. If he took the ancestral sorcerer parasite from the Sun-Moon demonic mirror and the higher-ups found out, the Hall of Penal Law would be implicated. However, he knew that the Enforcement Elder had a high status in the Hall of Penal Law. If something really happened, his life wouldn't be in danger. However, the Enforcement Elder might lose his position. However, Zhuowen couldn't care less about this matter. After he took the ancestral sorcerer parasite, he would leave a message for the Enforcement Elder to leave the Huangji clan as soon as possible. After all, the ancestral sorcerer parasite was very important to him and he had to get it. Seeing that Zhuowen was willing to lead them, the eyes of Chen Fa and the others lit up. After witnessing Zhuowen's strength, they had a lot of faith in Zhuowen. In their hearts, they subconsciously believed that Zhuowen was at least an existence on the same level as the galaxy of stars. With Zhuowen leading them, they really had a chance to enter the top 10 of the exquisite god competition. At this moment, in the square outside, when Liu Long's name disappeared from the Sun-Moon demonic mirror, Shan Tianlong's entire body stiffened. Soon after, Dan Tianlong discovered in disbelief that Liu Long had already awakened in the area around the central tower where Liu Long was located. He slowly stood up and walked out of the fence. It wasn't just Liu Long. The other 8 disciples from the Hall of Penal Law also stood up dejectedly and left the fence. Obviously, they had all been eliminated at the same time. Hall Master Shan, all the disciples from your Hall of Penal Law seem to have been eliminated. It seems like you've offended someone you shouldn't have. Don't forget our bet. The Law Enforcement Elder also noticed that Liu Long had been eliminated. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. He knew that he had won the bet with Shan Tianlong. Liu Long had been eliminated. Clearly, he didn't even have the qualifications to enter the top 100, while Zhuowen was now firmly occupying the second place. It was obvious who would win and who would lose at a glance. Shan Tianlong's eyes were gloomy as he said, "Elder of Law Enforcement, don't be complacent too early. Although Sky Dragon has been eliminated, I'm afraid your Hall of Penal Law won't fare any better. There are still more than 5 months until the end of the competition, and I'm afraid your Hall of Penal Law disciples will be eliminated soon. At that time, will at most be considered a draw." The law enforcement elder did not say anything else. Instead, he looked at the sun-moon demonic mirror. He was now filled with confidence in Zhuowen. This time, Liu Long's elimination was also beyond his expectations. Of course, such a result was also a pleasant surprise for him. As long as Zhuowen could maintain his current ranking, he would be very happy. "Liu Long, did you meet the galaxy of stars inside? How did you get eliminated so quickly?" After Liu Long returned to the team, Shan Tianlong asked with great displeasure. He somewhat blamed Liu Long for being so careless and not avoiding the galaxy of stars. Liu Long smiled bitterly and said, "Hall Master, I didn't meet the galaxy of stars. Instead, I met Zhuowen of the Hall of Penal Law. That guy eliminated me." "What? How is that possible? He's just a heavenly Tao master. How could he be your opponent?" Shan Tianlong almost shouted out. He did not believe it at all. The bitter smile on Liu Long's face became even more intense. After activating the mute restriction, he told Shan Tianlong everything that had happened inside in detail. The more Shan Tianlong listened, the uglier his face became. Liu Long's elimination caused a great uproar in the square. Many people were speculating who had eliminated Liu Long. Many hall masters even went to Shan Tianlong to inquire, but Shan Tianlong seemed to have something he could not say. This made many people secretly guess that Liu Long should have been eliminated by the galaxy of stars. Although Zhuowen's ranking was also very high, in the eyes of many people, he was just a lucky nobody. No one would pay attention to such a person, and no one would associate him with Liu Long's elimination. On the other hand, the enforcement elder noticed that Shan Tianlong and Liu Long's expressions were different. He had a guess in his heart, and although he did not show it on his face, he was secretly delighted. Time passed quickly. Soon, another 4 months had passed. During these 4 months, the rankings on the sun-moon demonic mirror had changed greatly. The first place was still the galaxy of stars. This galaxy of stars was like a mountain that pressed down on all the cultivators participating in the High God Refinement Conference. It was as if it was too high to reach and could not be surpassed. To everyone's bewilderment, the second place was still that unknown person called Zhuowen. 4 months ago, everyone thought that Zhuowen had obtained the second place due to luck, and that it would not be long before he was eliminated and replaced. But 4 months had passed, and this guy's name was still in the second place, unmoving. Even the third place, Huang Ju, had not been able to surpass Zhuowen. This made many people even more curious about Zhuowen. Of course, when they learned that Zhuowen was said to be the master of the heavenly Tao, many cultivators guessed that he must have been lucky enough to obtain a large reserve of the demonic mirror fragments and immediately hid in a secret place, not daring to come out. Therefore, he had not been discovered by the experts inside and was lucky enough to survive until now. It was precisely because of such rumors and guesses that Zhuowen, who was ranked second, didn't obtain the respect and importance of anyone. Instead, he was taken as a negative example by many people, and they felt that this child was a cowardly and weak trash. After another month, Huang Wu, who was resting with his eyes closed at the front of the square, suddenly opened his eyes. He waved his sleeve, and suddenly, most of the cultivators who were still around the central tower woke up. They stood up blankly, not knowing what was going on. There are only 3 days left until the Welling God Conference. These 3 days will be the real battle royal of the Welling God Conference. There are 337 cultivators who have survived until now, but this time, only the top 100 cultivators will be selected. In other words, only the top 100 cultivators shown in the sun-moon demonic mirror can continue to stay in the endless world. The remaining 237 cultivators must leave. Huang Wu's loud voice rang out. Those cultivators who had been awakened by themselves understood that they had not collected enough demonic mirror fragments to enter the top 100. This was a disguised elimination. Therefore, they all stood up in disappointment and left the area of the central tower. The real battle royal is about to begin. Next, the scene of the battle royal will appear on the Sun-Moon demonic mirror. Everyone, wait and see. Huang Wu continued to speak. With a flick of his finger, the name on the Sun-Moon demonic mirror at the top of the tower disappeared and was replaced by a huge image. In this image, an incomparably huge mountain appeared. The huge mountain's surface was full of strange and complicated patterns, exuding a vast and vicissitude aura. Chapter 2752. A fierce battle. At this moment, many hall masters in the square revealed gloomy expressions when they realized that the disciples from their branch halls had failed to enter the top 100 of the High God Assembly and had been eliminated. Those who had entered the top 100 and participated in the final battle royal were jubilant. If they could enter the top 100, they would definitely be rewarded handsomely. The higher the ranking of their disciples, the more generous the rewards would be. What surprised the hall masters the most was the situation with the Hall of Beheadings. This time, the Hall of Beheadings had sent a total of 7 disciples. Surprisingly, all 7 of them had entered the top 100. Moreover, Zhuowen, who was firmly in second place, seemed to be a disciple of the Hall of Beheadings as well. When they thought of this, many cultivators took the initiative to approach the disciplinary elder. Many of them were brimming with enthusiasm as they tried to worm their way into being friends with the disciplinary elder. After all, the Hall of Beheadings had sent 7 people into the top 100. Even if all 7 of them were at the bottom of the rankings, the rewards would still be extremely generous. It was said that the rewards this time would affect the future development of each hall. If a hall could perform exceptionally well in this High God Assembly, it would mean that the hall's development in the future would be swift and terrifying. Among all the halls, the Hall of Beheadings results were undoubtedly the best. They were almost on par with the Huangji clan's results. With their current achievements, the Hall of Beheadings would most likely surpass most of the other halls in the near future. Even Huang Wu and the other higher-ups couldn't help but think highly of the disciplinary elder, who was standing in the plaza with a grin on his face. At this moment, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with bewilderment. When he came to his senses, he discovered that he was in the vicinity of the Sun-Moon Mountain. Back when he was searching for the ancestral shaman parasite in the Sun-Moon Demon Mirror, he'd already searched this place and knew that the parasite was inside the mountain. However, there was an extremely powerful seal on the surface of the mountain. With Zhuowen's current strength, it was impossible for him to forcibly break it open. As for Zhuowen, his attainments in the Tao of Arrays were only at the pinnacle of the heavenly Tao realm. He was only able to understand a very small portion of the seal runes on Sun-Moon Yarrow Mountain. Wanting to rely on him to undo it was nothing more than a fool's dream. That was why he had left the Sun-Moon Yarrow Mountains, waiting for the final chaotic battle of the High God Assembly. Only by defeating all of the cultivators and taking the power of the Demon Mirror Shards would he be able to restore the Demon Mirror Shards. From there, he could summon the ancestral shaman Jiyu Worm in the Sun and Moon Yarrow Mountain, allowing it to empower him and allow him to break through to a higher realm in one go. Just now, he and Chen Fa were searching for the demon mirror fragments in a desert world when they were suddenly transported away by a wave of energy. When he woke up, he discovered that he had arrived in the vicinity of Sun-Moon Yarrow Mountain. At the same time, he noticed that they weren't the only ones teleported to the vicinity of Sun-Moon Yarrow Mountain. In the distance, there were other cultivators appearing from teleportation pillars. There are only 3 days left until the end of the Chrysanthemum God Assembly. I'm afraid that Lord Huang Wu has exhausted his own strength to gather everyone in the vicinity of Sun-Moon Yarrow Mountain and begin the true battle royal. Chen Fa appeared behind Zhuowen. He walked to Zhuowen's side and solemnly looked at the pillars of light that had appeared around them, as well as the figures that walked out of them. Behind Zhuowen, aside from Chen Fa, the other 5 disciples of the Hall of Beheadings followed. However, the 5 of them were rather reserved. They followed behind Zhuowen, maintaining a respectful expression on their faces from beginning to end. Ever since Zhuowen had led them for more than 4 months, they had been practically invincible. Any cultivator they encountered had been defeated by Zhuowen. Moreover, Zhuowen was extremely considerate. After defeating the enemy, he didn't immediately kill them. Instead, he handed them over to Chen Fa and the other 5 to deal with. It was because of Zhuowen's actions that Chen Fa and the other 5 were able to enter the top 100. Moreover, the cultivation of the 7 of them had greatly improved. Chen Fa, in particular, had relied on the power of the demon mirror fragment and the assistance of the half-finished heavenly fate pill that Zhuowen had given him. He had smoothly advanced to half-step heavenly fate master. With Chen Fa's cultivation and strength, entering the top 100 wouldn't be a problem for him. However, the remaining 5 people were barely able to make it. Thanks to Zhuowen's help, they were able to enter the top 100. Therefore, these 5 people were grateful and respectful towards Zhuowen from the bottom of their hearts. Zhuowen nodded. Chen Fa's guess was correct. Huang Wu had deliberately teleported them here in order to arrange for the final battle royal. Sure enough, just as Zhuowen had this thought, Huang Wu's ancient voice resounded in the sky. Everyone, I'm the one who teleported you here. As for why you were teleported here, I'm sure many of you have already guessed it. The High God Convention will end in 3 days. Before these 3 days, the top 100 has already been determined. It's you. The next 3 days will be a battle royal. Only the last person standing will be able to obtain the energy of all the demon mirror fragments. Then, they will be able to reunite and obtain the opportunity to be enlightened by the ancestral sorceress parasite in the Sun Moon Yarrow Mountain. This is a great opportunity. I hope everyone will cherish it. Also, I would like to remind everyone that the scope of this battle is 100,000 feet around the Sun Moon Yarrow Mountain. If anyone leaves this area, they will immediately be eliminated. The final battle royal will appear in the Sun Moon Demon Mirror before everyone in the square. I look forward to everyone's performance. Huang Wu's voice resounded in everyone's ears, causing their hearts to burn with passion. Everyone knew that the enlightenment of the ancestral sorceress parasite was more precious than collecting all the demon mirror fragments. Kill. In an instant, the surrounding cultivators' eyes turned red. They attacked the cultivators closest to them like crazy. The battle was on the verge of breaking out. The attacks were like colorful fireworks that exploded near the Sun Moon Yarrow Mountain. From afar, it was extremely dazzling. It was accompanied by the sound of metal clashing and ear-piercing sounds of fighting. A fierce battle also broke out on Zhuowen's side. 5 or 6 cultivators not far from Zhuowen joined forces and charged towards Zhuowen. These cultivators were basically primordial chaos masters. The strongest among them was actually a late-stage primordial chaos master. Chapter 2753. Underestimating, however, Zhuowen's face was a little gloomy. He didn't expect that the final battle royal would be broadcasted so blatantly for everyone in the square to see. Didn't this mean that there would be no secrets in any of Zhuowen's methods? Thinking of this, Zhuowen secretly became more vigilant. It seemed that he needed to restrain himself in this battle royal. He decided that unless he had no other choice, he wouldn't use the Pangu sacred body in this battle royal. Now that his original body had been promoted to Daoyuan master and had a special physique, his strength couldn't be compared to an ordinary Daoyuan master. He could even be compared to the peak of primordial chaos master. The space-time magic that Zhuowen's original body had mastered was extremely extraordinary. He also had the 3 moves of the tyrannical Dao slaughtering technique and the 4 profound meanings of the Pangu banner. Zhuowen could completely fight with the Destiny Master by relying on the strength of his original body. He could even have the upper hand. Brother Chen, follow me closely. Listen to my command. When Zhuowen saw the 5 or 6 cultivators rushing over at lightning speed, he said to Chen Fa behind him. Then, he took a step forward and took the lead to meet the 5 or 6 cultivators. Chen Fa and the others had already fought side by side with Zhuowen for more than 4 months, so they tacitly followed closely behind. Each of them used their own signature moves and began to fight with the 5 or 6 cultivators. The moment Zhuowen rushed out, he immediately used the spacetime magic. The boundless spacetime sea shrouded the surroundings. The 5 or 6 cultivators were immediately affected by the spacetime law power in the spacetime sea, and their movements became much slower. Zhuowen floated in the middle of the spacetime sea and didn't make a move. Chen Fa led the 5 master siblings and rushed out first to fight the 5 or 6 cultivators. Although Chen Fa and the others' overall strength was weaker than the other party, with the interference of Zhuowen's spacetime sea, Chen Fa and the others had the absolute advantage. Over the past 4 months, Zhuowen had been doing the same. He had only released the spacetime ocean domain to assist Chen Fa and company in battle. He had rarely taken action, so it was naturally the same this time. The battle royal proceeded in an orderly manner. Cultivators were constantly being killed off and eliminated. At the same time, there were also cultivators who killed others to obtain even greater power. The one with the strongest performance was the Galaxy of Stars. The Galaxy of Stars was like the god of death. Whenever he saw a cultivator, he would attack without hesitation. Basically, no cultivator could withstand a single attack from the Galaxy of Stars. Even though more than 10 cultivators had joined forces to attack the Galaxy of Stars, they were still defeated by the Galaxy of Stars. Most of the cultivators were slaughtered, and they were utterly defeated. In this chaotic battle, many cultivators began to deliberately avoid the Galaxy of Stars, not daring to fight head-on. At the same time, although Zhao Nianmeng's momentum wasn't as terrifying as that of the Galaxy of Stars, it was still extremely fast. The most low-key was Huang Ju. Huang Ju's aura was very strong, but he deliberately hid it. His attacks were like a viper hunting in the dark. When he attacked, it would be a fatal blow. Although many cultivators were deliberately on guard against Huang Ju's attacks were too strange. It was simply impossible to guard against, and it was useless. The Galaxy of Stars, Huang Ju, and Zhao Nianmeng's performances were an eye-opener for the cultivators watching from the outside. They couldn't help but exclaim loudly. At the same time, many cultivators wanted to see the second-ranked Hall of Penal Laws Zhuowen. When they finally found Zhuowen in the chaotic battle royal, they found that Zhuowen's performance was very mediocre. After releasing the spacetime ocean, he didn't attack anymore. Instead, he let Chen Fa and the other disciples of the Hall of Penal Law deal with the invading cultivators. For a while, Zhuowen's group was scared but not in danger. At least, they weren't in danger of being eliminated. Of course, they couldn't be called amazing. Many people began to question whether Zhuowen was the real deal. After all, based on his performance so far, Zhuowen's performance was just passable. He didn't live up to his title of second place. This Zhuowen's performance is too bad. Look at him. He's barely able to maintain that spacetime divine ability, and he still needs his companions to fight. How can such a piece of trash be ranked second in this high god assembly? It seems that our guess was right. This Zhuowen must have gotten lucky and found an earth vein that contained a large amount of demon mirror fragments. That's how he rose to second place in one fell swoop. After that, he hid in a secluded place and only came out now. This person is really insidious. Why don't we have this kind of luck? If I could get so many demon mirror fragments, I definitely wouldn't show my face in public. I would hide until the end of the High God Assembly. Hehe. This guy will be exposed in this battle royal. He might be killed directly later. Moreover, any one of the Galaxy of Stars, Zhao Nianmeng, or Huang Ju can beat this guy up. In the square, most people's attention fell on Zhuowen. After discovering that Zhuowen's performance was mediocre, they lost interest and were replaced with ridicule and disdain. Shan Tianlong of the Hall of Penal Law laughed and looked at the enforcement elder. He said sarcastically, "Enforcement elder, it seems that Zhuowen's luck is so good that it makes me speechless." He found that Liu Long's expression was very ugly. "Liu Long, is this the guy who killed you? I think there's something wrong with your head." Shan Tianlong vented all his frustration on Liu Long. Liu Long didn't dare to refute or say anything. He knew that Shan Tianlong was in a bad mood. If he told the truth, Shan Tianlong wouldn't believe him. However, he knew that it wasn't that Zhuowen didn't have any real ability, but that this guy was hiding his strength. Just wait and see. Zhuowen's strength is amazing. In my estimation, he isn't any weaker than the galaxy of stars. When Zhuowen shows his strength, let's see if the Hall Master will still say the same thing about me, Liu Long thought. Chapter 2754. Huang Ju makes a move. The battle royal was still going on, but the number of people was decreasing. There were originally 100 people, but now there were only 30 people left. It had only been a few hours, but nearly 60 people had been eliminated. Moreover, those who were eliminated were not ordinary cultivators. They were all true experts who had lasted until the end. From this, it could be seen how cruel the battle royal was. Poochie. Suddenly, the sea of time around Zhuowen was torn apart by a terrifying attack. Then, an incomparably pitch-black palm stretched out, as if it was a life-reaping hand from hell. The pitch-black palm was too fast. Zhuowen did not even have time to react. Then, the palm grabbed at Chen Fa and the others. At this moment, Chen Fa was fighting with the other 6 people. With the help of the power of the sea of time and space, they were about to obtain victory. However, the pitch-black palm covered the sky, enveloping Chen Fa and the other 6 people as well as their opponents. A blood-curdling scream was heard. The 12 people, including Chen Fa, were all slapped to death by this terrifying demonic palm. After the demonic palm killed Chen Fa and the others, it didn't slow down in the slightest. It continued to sweep towards Zhuowen, its might even more terrifying than before. Zhuowen's gaze turned cold. He was too careless just now. He did not expect someone to secretly attack him. The timing of the attack was too accurate. It was the moment when Zhuowen's attention was not on Chen Fa and the others. He used a thunderous attack. In the end, when Zhuowen was not paying attention, he killed Chen Fa and the others in one fell swoop. Seeing that the demonic palm continued to rush towards him, the killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes was no longer restrained and erupted. Zhuowen immediately used the third move of the tyrannical Dao slaughtering art, the slaughtering Dao hand. The endless heavenly energy in the surroundings continuously condensed, turning into an incomparably huge arm. The arm swept through the air and directly slammed into the incoming demonic palm. Rumble. The giant hand and the demonic palm collided, and an extremely terrifying light burst out. This light was too blazing, and accompanied by a deafening sound, it was as if the world was about to be destroyed. Soon after, the demonic palm and the giant hand were destroyed at the same time. Zhuowen's body swayed and his gaze involuntarily landed in the direction where the demonic palm had come from. Zhuowen's spacetime sea domain had been completely torn apart by the devil palm, and Zhuowen's figure appeared outside without any leeway. Zhuowen looked in the direction where the demonic palm disappeared and saw an extremely familiar figure. This was an extremely refined man who looked to be about 30 years old. He gave off the feeling of a weak scholar. Huang Ju. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He did not expect that the one who launched the sneak attack was actually this Huang Ju whom he had met once at Sun Moon Yarrow Mountain. Huang Ju still had an elegant smile on his face. He didn't feel awkward at all when Zhuowen found out. Brother Zhuo, long time no see. When we first met, it was at Sun Moon Mountain. Now that we meet again, it is also at Sun Moon Mountain. It seems that we are fated to meet. Huang Ju smiled and said in a clear voice. Zhuowen's eyes were cold, and he made no effort to hide the killing intent in his eyes. However, Huang Ju did not seem to sense the killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes. Instead, he said, Brother Zhuo, let's make a deal. I know that you've obtained 100,000 demon mirror fragments, and it's been so long. You should have absorbed all of them by now, right? How about this? You let me kill you and help me break through to the Heaven's Mandate realm. After this High God convention, I'll make it up to you. I'll give you whatever you want. Zhuowen sneered and looked at Huang Ju as if he was looking at an idiot. He said, I say, Fourth Prince, do you think I'll agree? Huang Ju did not care and calmly said, It's not that I don't think you'll agree, but that you must agree. This matter is not up to you. It's up to me to decide. Just as Huang Ju finished speaking, endless black energy suddenly burst out from under Zhuowen's feet. The black energy was like black tentacles, each as thick as a water bucket. They instantly enveloped Zhuowen from all directions. Zhuowen's figure was completely submerged by the black energy. It was impossible to see him clearly. Huang Ju floated not far away with a refined smile on his face. However, the depths of his eyes were filled with coldness. Huang Ju's attack attracted the attention of the other cultivators in the battle royal. After seeing Huang Ju attack, the other cultivators subconsciously distanced themselves from Huang Ju, afraid that Huang Ju would target them. Huang Ju's attack style was too strange and impossible to guard against. He was the opponent they didn't want to face besides the Galaxy of Stars. The Galaxy of Stars stood on the other side of the Sun-Moon Mountain and looked at Huang Ju from afar. His gaze was calm, but the bloodthirst in his eyes was even thicker, mixed with a powerful battle intent. Zhao Nianmeng stood on the other side of the Sun-Moon Mountain and also looked at Huang Ju, who was taking the lead to attack Zhuowen. The three of them knew that each of them was not mediocre, so they had a tacit understanding not to fight at the beginning. Instead, they first cleaned up the other cultivators before fighting to the death. Originally, they thought that since Zhuowen was ranked so high, he must be very strong. However, in the battle royal, they carefully observed Zhuowen and were very disappointed. This was because Zhuowen's cultivation was too low, and the strength he displayed was at most Lord of Primordial Chaos. The three of them were basically half-step Heaven's Will Masters, especially the Galaxy of Stars. His aura was even more unfathomable. Huang Ju and Zhao Nianmeng couldn't see through him. It was because Zhuowen's performance was not satisfactory that Huang Ju suddenly attacked and planned to get rid of Zhuowen first. After all, the energy of the demon mirror fragment on Zhuowen was far more abundant than the other cultivators. After killing Zhuowen, Huang Ju might break through and become a Heaven's Will Master. At that time, he would have the confidence to fight the Galaxy of Stars. Zhao Nianmeng was secretly angry. She also wanted to attack, but she saw that the Galaxy of Stars didn't move. In addition, she was a bit far from Huang Ju, so she also didn't move. She just watched silently. The cultivators in the square were in an uproar, mixed with ridicule and mockery. In their opinion, Zhuowen was a joke who got lucky. Now that Huang Ju had attacked, this kid was immediately beaten back to his original form. Boom! Just when everyone thought that Zhuowen was dead for sure, the boundary wrapped by the countless black energy tentacles suddenly collapsed. Immediately, a figure shot out and rushed towards Huang Ju. Huang Ju frowned slightly. Obviously, he didn't expect that Zhuowen still had the strength to break through the killing move he had arranged below. However, he wasn't afraid. In his opinion, Zhuowen must have been exhausted by the attack just now. If he attacked now, he could easily capture this kid. Chapter 2755. Beating Huang Ju up. Huang Ju let out a blood-curdling scream, but his reaction was extremely fast. After his right hand was blasted into a bloody mist, he kicked off with his right foot and retreated rapidly, pulling away from Zhuowen in an instant. All of this happened too quickly. Before anyone could react, they saw Huang Ju's right arm being crippled by Zhuowen. Huang Ju and Zhuowen were far away from each other. His eyes were filled with shock as he watched the white-clothed youth slowly walk out. His heart was trembling incessantly. He knew very well that Zhuowen's palm strike just now was too terrifying. It gave him a feeling that it was impossible to block or resist. The surrounding crowd fell silent. No one had expected that Huang Ju, who had originally held the absolute advantage, would suddenly have his advantage reversed. His right arm was so easily crippled by Zhuowen. Galaxy of Stars and Zhao Nianmeng, who were watching coldly from the sidelines, also revealed strange expressions. This was especially true for Galaxy of Stars. For the first time, her gaze fell on Zhuowen. Her eyes flickered, and no one knew what she was thinking. Zhao Nianmeng, on the other hand, looked at Zhuowen with fear. She knew her own strength very well. She and Huang Ju were both half-step Heaven's Mandate Masters, but in terms of strength, Huang Ju was still a level higher. If she were to fight Huang Ju, Although she wouldn't lose miserably, she would definitely be at a disadvantage. However, Zhuowen had suddenly displayed such terrifying strength. In a single palm strike, he had crippled Huang Ju's right arm. Even in Zhao Nianmeng's eyes, this was inconceivable. At the same time, Zhao Nianmeng put herself in Huang Ju's shoes. If she were to stand in Huang Ju's shoes, she would probably be in an even worse state than him. Thinking of this, Zhao Nianmeng finally began to pay attention to Zhuowen, and even fear him. She knew that this kid was really hiding his strength. The square was in an uproar. Zhuowen's move just now was indeed too sudden and too shocking for everyone. No one had expected that the ant-like existence that should have been easily dealt with by Huang Ju, who was just an ordinary character in their eyes, would counterattack and cripple Huang Ju's right arm in front of everyone's eyes. This guy is just lucky. Huang Ju must have underestimated this fella too much, so he gave this fella an opportunity. In the square, Shan Tianlong also saw this scene, frowned slightly, and muttered to himself in denial. Liu Long, who was standing behind Shan Tianlong, lowered his head, but the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. Shan Tianlong had never believed that he, Liu Long, was defeated by Zhuowen, and had even scolded him to his face. Now, Liu Long knew that as long as this Zhuowen displayed his true strength, which was comparable to the galaxy of stars, Shan Tianlong would have nothing to say even if he didn't believe it. At the front of the square, the upper echelons of the Huangji family were also stunned. Among them, the first head Huang Wu and second head Huang Shan exchanged a glance, and they both saw the strange look in each other's eyes. This Zhuowen is not simple. He actually hid his strength so deeply. Huang Wu said indifferently. Huang Shan nodded and said, "Big brother, looking at this Zhuowen's strength, he should be stronger than Huang Ju, but in fact, his strength is limited. If it wasn't for Huang Ju's carelessness, Huang Ju's right hand wouldn't have been crippled like this." Huang Wu nodded. Huang Shan was right. The reason why Huang Ju's right hand was so easily crippled was mainly because this guy underestimated his opponent. If he didn't, Huang Ju's current situation wouldn't be so bad. Huang Wuqi's eyes were calm. He also glanced at Zhuowen and said, "Huang Ju will be eliminated soon. This Zhuowen is not simple. Wuqi, between this Zhuowen and Xinghe, who do you think is stronger?" Huang Wu chuckled and asked Huang Wuqi. Although Huang Wu was the head of the Huangji family, he usually cultivated in seclusion when he had nothing to do. He rarely took care of the Huangji family's matters. He had already noticed that the galaxy of stars' talent and strength were very strong. However, Huang Wuqi was basically in charge of the galaxy of stars. In the Huangji family, the only one who truly understood the galaxy of stars was probably Huang Wuqi. Therefore, when it came to the galaxy of stars, Huang Wu couldn't help but ask Huang Wuqi. Huang Wuqi revealed a rare smile and said, "Xinghe has never shown his true strength from the beginning to the end. In front of Xinghe, this Zhuowen is just a slightly bigger stepping stone. He's not worth mentioning." Huang Wu and Huang Shan smiled. They thought the same in their hearts. They had placed too much hope in the galaxy of stars. They believed that the galaxy of stars was destined to be the second Huang Wuqi of the Huangji family. In fact, a large part of the reason why they had gone through so much trouble to hold the High God Assembly this time was actually for the galaxy of stars. They wanted the galaxy of stars to use the High God Assembly to break through to the second step Dao validation in one fell swoop. This would shake the entire Huangji family and spread the news among the other Dao palaces. It could be said that this time, they were building momentum for the galaxy of stars. The High God Assembly was also a large stage specially prepared for the galaxy of stars. Although Huang Ju was also a direct disciple, in their eyes, Huang Ju was far less important than the galaxy of stars. In their plan, Huang Ju was just a stepping stone for the galaxy of stars to advance to a higher realm and build momentum. Even if Huang Ju was eliminated by Zhuowen, they didn't feel much. The atmosphere around the Sun Moon Mountain was also very quiet. There were only a dozen or so cultivators left here. They all looked at Zhuowen in shock. They knew that they had underestimated this white-robed young man, Zhuowen. "What kind of move did you use just now?" Huang Ju and Zhuowen looked at each other from afar and asked with a slightly trembling voice. Zhuowen's eyes were indifferent. He didn't answer Huang Ju's question. Instead, he took a step forward and continued to rush towards Huang Ju. The killing intent in his eyes seemed to have materialized. The palm strike that Zhuowen blasted out just now was actually the power of the sky-splitting blade. However, he didn't fully display the sky-splitting blade and only used a small part of it. If he had fully displayed the sky-splitting blade, Huang Ju wouldn't have just lost an arm. Instead, his whole body would have been torn to pieces by the sky-splitting blade. Feeling Zhuowen's terrifying killing intent, Huang Ju's heart trembled. He knew that this guy really wanted to kill him. Waning sun on the sea. The moment he approached Huang Ju, Zhuowen immediately used the space-time divine ability. The endless space-time sea covered the two of them, firmly wrapping them inside. A purple sun above the sea, under Zhuowen's control, suddenly fell and crushed towards Huang Ju in the center of the space-time sea. In the space-time sea, Huang Ju's reaction and actions were limited. In addition, Huang Ju's right hand was injured by the sky-splitting blade and basically couldn't use it. This reduced Huang Ju's strength too much. Now, Huang Ju was basically being suppressed by Zhuowen. Chapter 2756. Zhao Nianmeng seeing Huang Ju being suppressed by Zhuowen, many sighed, knowing that Huang Ju's defeat was certain. Galaxy of Stars watched the battle between Zhuowen and Huang Ju indifferently. He didn't intervene, instead moving towards the other cultivators. He planned to get rid of the remaining eyesores before dealing with Zhuowen. Zhao Nianmeng also had the same idea. Soon, Huang Xinghe and Zhao Nianmeng dealt with the remaining cultivators. Zhuowen and Huang Ju's battle wasn't over yet. However, Huang Ju was in imminent danger, like a taut string that could snap at any moment. Junior brother Xinghe, your fourth brother is in danger. Aren't you going to help? Zhao Nianmeng stared at Galaxy of Stars, pretending to be relaxed. There were only the four of them left near Sun Yuyao Mountain. Zhuowen was still fighting Huang Ju. Zhao Nianmeng knew that if Galaxy of Stars didn't help Huang Ju, she would be his next target. Zhao Nianmeng had gained a lot and reached the half-step Heavenswell realm, but she still wasn't confident in facing Galaxy of Stars. Huang Xinghe placed his hands behind his back and glanced at the battlefield on Zhuowen's side. Everyone here is my enemy except me. Huang Ju might be my fourth brother, but he's also my target. Why should I help my enemy? Zhao Nianmeng's gaze turned serious. He looked at Galaxy of Stars and said, Junior brother Xinghe, that Zhuowen isn't simple. I'm sure you've seen how he crippled Huang Ju. That's no ordinary power. I think it's best if we deal with Zhuowen first, then fight it out. That's the wisest choice. Galaxy of Stars smiled faintly. Do you think I can't tell? That Zhuowen is still hiding his strength, but no matter how strong he is, he's just a paper tiger in front of me. At this point, the Galaxy of Stars took a step forward. The aura on his body seemed to be able to swallow the sun and moon and overturn the mountains. It was vast and powerful. With each step the Galaxy of Stars took, his aura grew stronger. His vast aura seemed to break through the horizon, surpassing that of a half-step Heaven's Mandate Lord. When Galaxy of Stars took 9 steps, his aura reached its peak. It was as if he had broken through some kind of shackle. He became unbridled, arrogant, and peerless. Zhao Nianmeng continuously retreated, but her pretty face was completely pale. Her voice trembled as she said, You broke through? The Galaxy of Stars had his hands behind his back. He was like a peerless divine sword that had been unsheathed. His aura seemed to break through the horizon, and the wind and clouds changed color. At this moment, it was as if the Galaxy of Stars was the entire sky. Zhuowen, who had originally trapped Huang Ju in the spacetime ocean and planned to slowly torture Huang Ju to death, also sensed the aura that was as vast as the sky. He looked at the Galaxy of Stars not far away in surprise. He hadn't expected the Galaxy of Stars to break through to the Heaven's Mandate Lord level. With the Galaxy of Stars' terrifying talent, he could already defeat ordinary Heaven's Mandate Lords when he was at the peak of the Primordial Chaos Lord level. Now that he had broken through to the Heaven's Mandate Lord level, His strength was even more unfathomable. He was probably comparable to the average lord of profound secrets. Even if an eternal overlord came in person, the galaxy of stars' strength might be enough to defeat him, but there was still a chance he could preserve his life. After all, the difference between an eternal overlord and a heaven's mandate lord was too great. In front of an eternal overlord, a heaven's mandate lord was like an ant that could be killed with a single slap. But the galaxy of stars was no ordinary person. After becoming a heaven's mandate lord, he had the chance to survive an eternal overlord. Even Zhuowen had to take such an opponent seriously. Of course, if Zhuowen used his full strength, he believed that no matter how heaven-defying the galaxy of stars was, he would still be able to destroy him. But this also meant that Zhuowen would have to reveal some of his trump cards, and in front of so many people. In the square, after Huang Xinghe revealed his aura as the Master of Destiny, an uproar broke out like a tsunami. Noise, excitement, and exclamations rose and fell one after another, lingering in the ears. As expected of the number one genius of our Huangji clan. He's already become a heaven's mandate lord. The fifth prince has only cultivated for a few hundred years. He's a true genius. That's right. The fifth prince will definitely be the final winner this time. Once he wins, he'll be able to receive the ancestral shaman parasite's blessing. At that time, the fifth prince's cultivation will probably rise to another level. It won't be impossible for him to become a profound overlord. Everyone was discussing this matter. They found it inconceivable, but also found it reasonable. Even the law enforcement patriarch was shocked. Brother Zhuo has already done his best this time. But it's already amazing that he was able to take second place. At this moment, Chen Fa and the others had returned to the enforcement elders group. Chen Fa looked at the image displayed in the sun-moon demonic mirror and spoke softly. The enforcement elder nodded. Zhuowen had indeed made the hall of beheadings and executions shine. At the same time, the enforcement elder rejoiced that Zhuowen was able to represent the hall of beheadings and executions in this high god assembly. If it weren't for Zhuowen, all the disciples of the hall of beheadings and executions wouldn't have been able to enter the top 100. Galaxy of Stars is indeed a genius, but Zhuowen isn't bad either. As long as he's given enough time, Zhuowen's cultivation will reach the same level as the Galaxy of Stars. I'm afraid the Galaxy of Stars won't be a match for Zhuowen, the enforcement elder said in a deep voice. Chen Fa and the others nodded. After all, Zhuowen's cultivation was too low. He was only a Dao origin master, but he was able to defeat Huang Ju, a half-step heaven's mandate lord. From this, one could see how strong and profound Zhuowen's potential was. Although the enforcement elder and the others believed in Zhuowen's strength, they still subconsciously believed that Galaxy of Stars wouldn't be a match for the Galaxy of Stars after discovering that Zhuowen had become a heaven's mandate lord. The Galaxy of Stars quietly floated above the sun-moon mountain. His aura was majestic, as if he could swallow the sun and the moon. Zhao Nianmeng, do you still want to fight me? Huang Xinghe lifted his starry eyes, exuding a peerless aura as he spoke. His magnetic voice had a strange attraction to it, carrying with it an unquestionable authority. Zhao Nianmeng's pretty face turned pale. She smiled wryly and said, "Fifth Prince, even if you haven't become a Heaven's Mandate Lord, I still don't have the confidence to be your opponent. Now that you've become a Heaven's Mandate Lord, I'm like an ant before you. However, I'm not willing to surrender without a fight. Although I know I'm not a match for you, I still want to try." With that, Zhao Nianmeng opened her jade-like palm and gently clenched it. A red paper umbrella appeared in the center of her palm. "This is my strongest attack. I want to see how big the gap is between us." You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,